Streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
He scored! Amerks Crunch, Friday at 7.
Game 5 back at Blue Cross Arena.
Let's go!
Mike Danger.
Chase Claypool. The guy's a bum. I really can't believe that they signed that guy.
Gene Battaglia.
I'm trying to be above. I'm trying to be a better fan here, Mike. And I have you to thank.
My wish is that you just go all in soon and that it'll be great.
The Mets win! Put it in the books!
Yesterday's Met Gala in New York.
The defending champs in major trouble.
Ant-Man and the Timberwolves.
The Wolves.
Jamal Murray threw a heating pad and a towel.
There probably aren't many fans in the building that have a heat pack.
The Knicks keep cooking, and so does Jalen Brunson. Knicks do get some fortunate calls from the officials in the final minute.
We're not expecting to get calls in here.
I'm going to nominate the officials from last night.
Way to have a night ref show.
The Bruins rolled through Florida 5-1 to open their second round series.
Oh, yeah. The draft lottery is tonight, 6:30. What does it mean?
Oh, who cares?
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
Hey, good afternoon to you as we welcome you on in to Rochester's only local sports talk show. You found the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia. Appreciate you listening along at 95.7 FM, AM 950. The Fan Rochester sounds its best in the free-to-download Odyssey app or on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. And if you want to watch the Sports Bar, we've got that for you too. Our stream is up on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester or twitch.tv/The Fan Rochester. I'm Danger. That's Battaglia.
Everybody should be in a great mood here today. Just go outside. If you're having a rough day in the office, just take 5 minutes. Go outside.
You know what? I feel bad. I didn't get outside during the workday. I started my day with my dad run. It was nice to have the sun out, but you wake up in the morning and it's still chilly. It's in the 40s, along the lake. It's still a little chilly, but man, that sun does feel good, doesn't it? Doesn't it? This is spring. This is what spring, like we say spring is a myth. Spring doesn't exist.
Yeah, it'll be here for 2 more days after this. And
Get a couple of days.
Yeah.
Get a couple of days. Yeah. So, savor it as best you can. Man, I love this time of year, too, because it coincides with just amazing action everywhere you look. Whether you want the NBA postseason, the Stanley Cup playoffs, you don't have to look far. Here in Rochester, we've got a great Game 5 on Friday night at Blue Cross Arena. There's an energy to this time of year that I love.
Yeah, springtime hockey. I mean, we've kind of missed that here for more than a decade, obviously, with the Buffalo Sabres. We get it back here when we expected it was gone, actually. I mean, fun show we have lined up today. Cannot wait for our conversation with head coach Seth Appert as he will be joining us by phone at 4:25. The Amerks, as you know, still live, and they play the deciding Game 5 coming up Friday night. We'll talk to the Amerks head coach next hour.
And then coming up later on this hour, we'll talk some Buffalo Bills with Matt Perino covering the team for the Syracuse Post-Standard as he does every Tuesday afternoon. He'll stop by here, and we'll get caught up on all things Buffalo Bills with rookie minicamp getting underway this week.
Yeah, Friday is the day when the players will be out there. So what are we looking for from rookie minicamp? We'll ask Matt. I know we're all kind of like, hey, when is the schedule coming out? Danger, I think it's pretty close to being official, right? We didn't get any morsels here. It's not going to be coming out this week.
Although Jim Irsay did put out a cryptic tweet just to kind of, I smell an NFL schedule coming, something along those lines. And okay, thanks, Jim.
I guess he's feeling better.
Must be feeling better.
Yeah,
must be feeling better. So we'll get into some NFL and some Buffalo Bills with Matt Perino, who joins us here in about 20 minutes or so. You can join us at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN. We're also on Elon's Twitter. That's X at The Fan Rochester. Look forward to engaging with you there. The table is set.
I think I'd like to start with a place we don't. That's actually the NBA here, where the last night was interesting both in the early game and the late game. The early game, the officials might have helped out the Knicks. Boo-hoo. Knicks win Game 1, but I think what Indiana showed is, oh, yeah, that's right. They've got Siakam there. They can defend pretty well.
They can hang.
Yeah, and quite honestly, they should have won Game 1, so that's going to go long, that series. boy, how many of us really watch Minnesota Timberwolves basketball in the regular season? You get to last night, and you're reminded, hey, this is actually the best team defensively in the NBA, and defense wins championships. So I guess my question is, Danger, Minnesota in the final, or maybe it's OKC. But what if it's not Boston? What if it's not New York? What if we ended up with a Cleveland, Minnesota final, something like that? My point is, like, if the NHL cannot close the gap on the NBA this year, then when? Because these games are really interesting in the NBA, but what people outside of being a big-time sports fan tune in for, it's the star power. See the Super Bowl. They're tuning in for Mahomes and a glimpse of Taylor Swift and certainly their boyfriend. And look, these are young stars, but household names not anywhere close out west.
Anthony Edwards is a star. Anthony Edwards earlier this year snatched the soul of Utah Jazz's John Collins in a dunk where he absolutely posterized him. And it might go down as the dunk of the year. And then, all he did in round one of the postseason was dunk over KD. The guy does not care. Zero respect. I'm going to absolutely own you. And he's got that he's got an alpha dog mentality. He's got a win at all cost mentality. He's an easy player to fall in love with in the NBA. I'll stop short of the Jordan comparisons because they're already making them. Oh, he's the next Jordan.
Stop.
I don't want to hear that.
No.
I want to see him. I need a little bit bigger body of work. I want to see him win something. Now, we can talk about his game and compare it to Jordan's if he gets to the NBA Finals, if they win it all. Nobody had Minnesota winning it all.
Well, look, you're talking as a sports fan, and I hear you, but what moves the number? You need the bigger audience. And I don't think America has any clue what Minnesota's up to.
Right. So the what's happening out west, whether you're talking about a star like Edwards, a star like Jokic, Luka Doncic, the team that we need our national nightmare of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and his teammate there, the AT&T commercial where they're going back and forth. It needs to stop. Chet Holmgren. The two that needs to go. But the NBA is doing a better job in real time than Major League Baseball certainly is with any of their star players. I mean, at least you're getting to learn who these future stars of the NBA are, not just through their play on the court, but also in all the marketing and everything that goes on around them. The Timberwolves are a fun team, and they might just be the best team in the NBA. I can't, after seeing what they've done now for these first two games.
They went in, they punched Denver. Denver scored 80 last night.
They might be the best team in the league, which is nobody saw that coming. Nobody. And you got to give them credit. So we'll see how the rest of that series plays out. And as far as the Knicks go, man, I've been saying that, all along how fun this has been. Just, it's a fun ride. If you're a Knicks fan, and I'm not, I'm kind of a casual observer, but I can get caught up in it because I love the reaction. I love seeing the Garden just energized and everybody going crazy. And I can't imagine what being in New York City must be like during this run or during any playoff run. It's a Knicks. You've said it. It's a Knicks town.
It is a Knicks town. And if I had to kind of pull it back a little bit, see if you agree with this take or not, because if you had to say, if you picked a city, what is the city most known for in terms of sport? And if I said Toronto, it's
Blue Jays. No, Maple Leafs.
You had me for like a split second. Like, yes.
No, everybody talks about the Raptors in Toronto.
Yeah, or like if I said the NHL, where's the NHL most loved?
Oh, Canada.
Yeah, well, Toronto, I would say. Which city? Toronto.
Yeah, sure.
The NFL, where is it most loved?
What, Dallas?
I'd have to say yeah, because you're certainly going from the high schools to college.
Football in Texas is big.
Baseball. I changed my opinion on this recently. The answer is Boston. Boston, like you could be in a restaurant and everybody's looking up at the Sox, and the Sox could be in last place and people go. And people are bitching about the Sox, but they love the Sox, whatever it is.
Okay.
What has happened in St. Louis, Danger, with this team down in the dumps? You brought this up last week. When they're playing Arizona, good team, like, where is everybody? If you caught it from over the weekend, there was a rain delay. And granted, the White Sox are dirt, okay? They're the worst team in the league. And there's a rain delay. But then they come back from the rain delay, and I'm not kidding you, it looked like the pandemic year. There's nobody in there. So you're not these great fans in St. Louis there. You got to be there through thick and thin. What I would say is, who loves the NBA the most? Los Angeles. I don't know. Maybe I will say it's New York. I think they have been with that team, and they haven't won since 1973.
Yeah, I think in LA they love the Lakers. I think in New York they love basketball, and they appreciate it, man. They know it when they see it, and they appreciate it. Brunson has been fantastic. DiVincenzo is just a killer. He's just an assassin.
Pretty good actor too on that.
That's fine. But yeah, the Knicks are a fun story. I think that is going to be a fun series. And then when you shift gears, and I was flipping around a little bit last night, and I caught a little bit of the Bruins-Panthers Game 1 matchup in the Eastern Conference semifinals of the Stanley Cup playoff. And watch out, because if the Bruins get going, and they've got momentum now, you didn't think they were going to score 5 on the Panthers and put them away. But they answered the second period 1-0 lead with 5 unanswered, and Swayman is that goalie. Every year a goalie catches fire. Every year a goalie gets in the zone, and this year it feels like Swayman is that guy.
Maybe. That series started out that way last year, too, and then all of a sudden, all it takes is one game, and then boom. So how good is Florida? That Florida is a very good team, too. So I'm not going to overreact to one game. That being said,
but Swayman's body of work so far this postseason has been impressive.
I don't care about any of these teams in the East. You don't either. Okay, I recognize that we have Bruins fans listening and Ranger fans. Give us a Boston, New York. Like, could you imagine this is the spring we're going to have not one, but 2 Boston, New York semis?
I would love that. That would be so much fun. Just the hatred between the two markets and the teams involved. Oh, it would be chef's kiss.
The only downside is I think James Dolan is one of the worst individuals on this planet.
Hard to root for,
Yeah, hard to root for. That guy is going to make all this money. So,
yeah, nobody brings him up during this run. Nobody talks about James Dolan, but he's still despicable. I imagine it would be the same thing we would be talking about if the Bulls went on a run or the White Sox were actually good. We'd be talking about what a horrible owner Krause is, because they're just horrible. So many of these billionaire owners just make themselves publicly known to be horrible. If we don't hear from Terry Pegula the way we don't hear from Terry Pegula, there's a reason for it. It's because he's terrible. He's terrible.
I don't know the man personally.
No,
so I
but
can't
when you connect these dots and when you hear the stories and you're like, whoa, you said it last week. Who fires their son-in-law from the family business? Huh? Horrible billionaire owner, probably.
That's some family drama there for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that's just to put a bow on it. Like it's a great time of year with the sun out, with spring being here, even if it lasts us a couple of days. The action has been fantastic, and it continues tonight. We've got that Game 1 between the Cavs and the Celtics. Out west, the Mavs travel to OKC to take on the Thunder. You've got a doubleheader in the Stanley Cup playoffs with the Hurricanes looking to even up their series against the Rangers. The Avs are in Dallas to take on the Stars. Oh, by the way, the NHL draft lottery is tonight. This used to be a big deal for us.
This is all we used to talk about. Mm-hmm. Oh, my gosh, what if they got so-and-so? Oh, we ended up with Jack Eichel. Okay, Darlene. Hey. What if the Sabres actually won tonight? Will we care?
No. I mean, if they got up to 1, that's a story. We would care, because that would be shocking. That would be a story.
It's the 3% chance.
So it's a 3% chance that they win the lottery. What do you think NHL fan does if Chicago wins it for a second year in a row?
Oh, they won't be happy. Like you haven't.
NHL fan was already not happy that they won it last year because the Blackhawks are a despicable organization.
You
as
haven't
well.
right. Like we haven't. Chicago hasn't paid their penance. I think that's how a lot of people view the Blackhawks. Hey, you won 3 cups, but under these horrible. And look, it was a horrible story.
Yeah,
and the owner's still there.
Just absolutely like not wanting to deal with it, not wanting to address it. It's it's kind of gross being a Blackhawks fan sometimes. But you get Bedard last year.
Well, time out. Like how long? Because Penn State moved past it. Like I feel like sometimes we don't talk about that enough because Penn State people like get all upset. Like that was horrible. Mm-hmm. And yet the program went on and we debate about Penn State football like
the guy is out, and if the guy was at Penn State, I think the thing that made it like even worse was that you had Paterno just kind of like still there. Yeah. No real punishment, right?
Yeah. Oblivious.
Kind of oblivious to everything that was going on. And I think that's the same could be said for what was happening in Chicago. They were just kind of oblivious. And the guys that were there Joel Quenneville has been punished. I mean, like Joel Quenneville probably won't get a job again.
I was just going to ask you that. You don't think some team wouldn't say, all right, come on back, or Joel Quenneville will go coach a junior team or something where he can go redeem himself?
Yeah, I don't think so, man. Hey, you're Joel Quenneville. You've proven. Yeah, I don't know that you need to. Your resume is your resume.
I think you want to just to change the narrative.
And maybe, or you're just fine disappearing. I mean, just,
Well, I credit, on the other hand, Rick Pitino. Rick Pitino could have disappeared. Now, he didn't do anything like to the level we're talking about, Penn State or the Quenneville turning the blind eye there. But Pitino rebuilt himself, had to go overseas, did a lot of things, had to ride a bus, coaching at Iona. Like all that stuff is not what he was used to, but he did it. And St. John's basketball, they barely missed the tournament this year. They're going to be relevant next year.
The Amerks Game 5 is Friday at Blue Cross Arena. Don't have a ticket count. Do we have a ticket count for today as something that's more recent?
Come on, Danger.
You're on it.
You think I don't have a ticket count?
Just making sure.
All right.
Are we close?
All right. Do you want to take a guess here?
I'm going to say we were at, 8,600 yesterday afternoon?
We were at 7338.
7338 yesterday afternoon?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was higher than that.
Nope.
All right, well, then I'll say 8,600 because it's for whatever reason, that's on my mind.
I'm sorry. Did I say 73? I meant 93.
93.38.
I just misspoke.
93.38 is where we're at or where we were?
That's where we were yesterday. Right now, we're at 98.53.
Oh, okay, so we're approaching 10.
Yeah.
Approaching 10. Gino got his tickets. I got my tickets. Turns out we're all sitting in the same row.
We will be.
Just like you. Yeah. We're waiting till the last minute. We're going to be up in the nosebleeds.
Does Sandy know not to talk to me during a game, your wife?
Let's strategize. Okay, let's put the executive producer next to Sandy so that the executive producer
she wants to watch the game too. She is not going to want to talk about kids and graduation or anything. She's going. I get home and she's saying, that's the difference. She loves hockey.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, she is a hockey mom. Yeah. She should love hockey. All right, so now I've got to strategize the seating arrangement here because I've got my 4 seats and you've got 3 next to my 4 seats. So is it you and I sitting next to each other so we can compare notes throughout the course of the game?
I think you sit next to my son because he would just kind of like be like, get Dangerous take here and everything. So like he would love to hear your analysis.
Now, what happens if I'm sitting between my daughters?
Good question. I don't think like my son and your daughter. I don't think they would, necessarily.
My oldest would probably talk to Kyle. Sure, yeah, I would think so. Leah would probably talk to Kyle. Lexi will want to be like into the game.
Okay,
I took her last year to the postseason. She had a blast. So she knows what to expect.
Well, again, you go to postseason hockey. We've been to games before in Buffalo, and you're just kind of like, oh, yeah. Or like a Red Wing game. Oh, yeah. Hockey, playoff hockey, different. You don't take your eyes off the ice for 1 second.
Yeah, and this will be an electric atmosphere. I'm so looking forward to it. Friday's going to be a blast. And we're talking about the game, but Gino and I will actually be there pregame from 3 until 7. We'll do the show live from Blue Cross Arena. That kind of like upper atrium concourse area over there when you go up the escalators to your right and around the corner there's that little bar in the corner of the arena there. That's where we'll be posted up. I believe that's where we're posted up.
Yeah.
I know Pizza Dude's going in and checking up on our site right now.
Yeah, everything's going to be good on that. Another Tony writing to me.
Hey!
I think you met Tony Laparty, his son Andy. Got our tickets. We're going to stop by Friday night. Tony, appreciate you listening as always. And yeah, we'll be up there. And during the commercial breaks, we will kind of hang with you. Nathan Pace will be stopping by too. We're going to have like a pretty good lineup on Friday.
We have confirmation on Pacer?
Yes. It's about
Sweet.
time.
Good.
It's about time.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Love having Pace on with us. Good guy. Done a great job this year with these guys. And man, this is a story. I mean, for them to do what they did on Saturday night is memorable. Now you have to close the deal. Now you have to finish it. Otherwise, that's your highlight. Your highlight is, congratulations, you came back in Game 4, but you couldn't close the door in Game 5. There's more highlights to be written here.
How do they view 13 seconds in Kansas City? They shouldn't view it for anything because they lost to Cincinnati the following week.
Right.
Now, it's a little different seeing they won championships before and after that, but my point is that, hey, that was a remarkable comeback, and you really can't celebrate it because what did it matter in the end? So for the Amerks, where this is a fun week, holy cow, we're still alive. Now you got to finish it. One question I want to ask Seth, too, when we get him in the 4 o'clock hour, and this was our buddy Keith, Let's Go Amerks, pointing this out to me. Hey, did he tighten the bench? Because I guess he did tighten the bench in overtime. So I don't think Seth is going to tell us the strategy, but what tightening the bench is basically, hey, I'm going to make sure I'm using my top lines, my top players, give me everything you have. Where if this is development in a Game 5 and you want to see some of the younger players and how they respond, like where's the balance here?
No, I have no problem. If that's true, if you only ran 2 lines, fine.
Yes.
Fine.
Yes.
Trying to win games.
Yeah. Like, okay, you know what? We'll worry about development. Game 1 against Cleveland or Belleville or whoever we're playing next.
Yeah. That would be. I don't know that we'll get a straight answer on that, but I have zero issue with tightening of the bench if you're trying to win a hockey game. And you know going in, this line is playing out of their minds. Get them on the ice as much as possible, as much as they can handle.
Yeah. Byro Ciccone and Weisbach.
Yeah. We'll have Seth Appert on with us in about an hour. Next up in the Sports Bar, we check in with Matt Perino, covering the Buffalo Bills for the Syracuse Post-Standard. You can also hear Perino on the Shout podcast with our buddy Ryan Talbot. Stopping by next, 866-4FAN is our phone number, 585-866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger in the update.
Rochester Americans closing in on a sellout for Friday. 9,853 tickets have been sold for the deciding Game 5. We'll talk to head coach Seth Appert at 4:25 this afternoon. Of course, we'll have the game for you Friday night here on the Fan. Rochester, Amherst, and Syracuse. Tonight in the NHL, it's the draft lottery. That'll be at 6:30. The Sabres with a 3% chance of winning. Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, and the Shout podcast joining us next year in the Sports Bar as Bill's rookie minicamp set to begin on Friday. Baseball tonight for the Rochester Red Wings. They play at Scranton Wilkes-Barre, the team home next week. Yankees tonight hosting Houston. The Mets are in St. Louis. 2 games tonight in the NBA playoffs. The Celtics and Cavs play Game 1, as do Dallas and Oklahoma City. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
We welcome you back into the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Matt Perino covers the Buffalo Bills for the Syracuse Post-Standard and the Shout podcast. Matt, appreciate the time as always. I kind of dwelled on it over the weekend because the news came on Friday. Spent a lot of time just kind of thinking about the move and how much I hate the player. Chase Claypool, we can't do better to add to the 90-man roster than Chase Claypool. The guy is a bum.
Wow. I'm walking right into the thick of the fire here. I was actually on GR yesterday. I was talking to the Bulldog about this, and I'm like, I can't remember a May-June signing that has been this divisive. I mean, when the thing came out on Friday, and I talked about it on my show, like just some of the reactions, like there is like vitriolic disdain for this guy, and I kind of don't get it. Like, I get it to a degree, right? Like, we've all kind of watched.
He's a quitter. He quit on his team.
I get it. I get a lot of that. But it's a signing that's like, it's nothing. The Bills are investing nothing in Chase Claypool. He's wide receiver 7 going to training camp. And he's the only guy beyond their top 3 that has had, like, an actual season of success in the league. I mean, go back to his rookie year, when he paired up with what was at the very tail end of competent Ben Roethlisberger, he soared. And, like, I also think the case study on Claypool is so interesting. Like, comes into the league, enters probably what was the most horrible wide receiver room situation. Remember back in 2020 when Juju Smith-Schuster was dancing on logos and posting it on TikTok? I mean, that was his leader in the room back then. So I think that what's transpired since is a guy that came into the league, had success, got a pretty big head about it. We all saw the podcast clip that went viral, and he's been knocked down several notches to the point where I bet you his camp was wondering if they were even going to get an NFL offer. I mean, I think that there was some noise around maybe even the CFL being an option. So if you're Brandon Beane and you're sitting there like, all right, this is a guy that I do know that they liked back in the draft process, at least from a skill set perspective. This is his last opportunity. He's approaching it like that. Why not throw a vet minimum contract on him? They're betting on KJ Hamler as well, and I think a lot of people are on the fence about what could potentially be the upside there. You're right. This isn't necessarily the Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane process kind of signing, but I've made this argument on this show before that I think the culture is more about what you build to be able to withstand than bringing in guys that are going to add to your culture at this stage in the build. Like early on, yeah, you got to get all the riffraff out. You got to bring in guys that are going to set the culture, that are going to be good for the locker room. But now it's established. You have all of these leaders, and I know there's a little bit of turnover this year, but even that newer, fresher group of leaders is still going to instill that culture. And I think that you build the culture to withstand players like this. And if it potentially hits, they need a deep threat down on the boundary. That's what they need. I think Claypool's athletically a little bit more suited for that role than even maybe a Keon Coleman. So I think it's a dart throw, and it's a very cheap dart throw. But I get your reservations and people that genuinely don't like the guy. I get all of that. but I also I'm here for the reclamation project and seeing a guy that's probably been ultimately humbled over the last couple of years, seeing if they're able to figure it out, and he couldn't have landed in a better spot. And I kind of want to see what Claypool looks like with a good quarterback after the last couple of years.
Okay, I hear all that. I'm going to give you my thoughts on this. Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, and the Shout podcast, because yes, why is this divisive? I think our part of the country values work ethic more than any other part. I look at Kyle Williams, who had a nice career, but man, that's a guy we hold in high esteem because he worked his tail off. And we look at the Ted Nolan Sabres. My
Fred
goodness.
Jackson.
Yeah, guys like that we just, as compared to others. And Matt, you know what happens at Fisher when you get in the bright sunshine and everything looks great. And I'll draw the analogy because you worked in places like this. Everybody's worked in places like this where you're bringing in somebody that there's a finger quote here, a book on them. Doesn't that person eventually revert to their ways? I mean, the question I have is, hey, everything's going to be going fine during the OTAs and minicamp and Fisher and the preseason, but what happens when he decides not to block? What happens when he's starting to revert to some of his old ways?
I mean, yeah, I guess that's always a risk in these kinds of decisions, and I think that there's probably a great deal of risk-reward conversations inside the building. I can't imagine this deal was done. And of course, it happened at a weird time where we won't talk to Bean for a while. So I don't know if we won't get him again until camp. We'll get Sean McDermott probably here with rookie minicamp coming up. But I think that the Bills are very calculated with these kinds of moves. And, there's an upside here for a player that I think you take some of that stuff out and bet on your building. More than anything. And I get too that what you both are talking about, just there's a certain kind of work ethic that people kind of embrace around here. Well, and this isn't a great example, but Stephon Diggs had the ultimate work ethic, right? The guy never stopped practicing, was great at practice, the workout videos in the off season. And then you get to year 3, end of year 3, and the year 4, and he's calling himself off the field. He'd play 3 plays and be like, now I'm going to get a blow and take myself out of the game. It's a different position. I almost feel like you have to look at receiver differently than you look at, offensive and defensive linemen. I know Fred Jackson was a running back, but he was also a UDFA guy. That he had to, or a late draft pick, I can't remember now. He had to earn it in the league. So that work ethic was just part of what got him to where he landed. And I think we will truly learn what Chase Claypool is in an environment like Buffalo. Chicago was a tire fire. I mean, they were trying to figure things out. That was never the move to make, to bring him over there. I already mentioned what was going on in Pittsburgh. And then last year, you think Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are showing the way to a guy that's lost his way, and Mike McDaniel couldn't really find a role for him. I think he needs an opportunity, man. I think that's the way that the Bills are approaching it. And if it was any significant cost, sure, I'd be right there with you guys pushing back on this. But they can walk away from this at any second, and they're no worse off. I think they're just trying to turn over some rocks in a year where they have to be really fiscally responsible so that they have tons of resources next off season. Here's another thing that I've been kind of workshopping here a little bit. I know Bills fans are struggling with one wide receiver in the draft and not necessarily replacing Stephon Diggs. But I do think the Bills are approaching this season to see what they have on offense, almost taking stock in the players that they do have. What does Dalton Kincaid look like in a more substantial role? How do the pieces that they've kind of brought in fit? Is Keon Coleman a wide receiver 1, or is he a better wide receiver 2? And now next offseason, when you're going to have the money, you have to take a real run, whether it be with resources to get up in the draft or in free agency or via trade, going out and getting somebody like that. The Bills don't have the money for that right now. But I do think, and the other thing that's probably precluding or making Brandon Beane hesitant to go all in and trade for Brandon Ayuk or T. Higgins is the fact that there's still a lot of unknown about the Joe Brady offense, the the stark difference in offensive skill position players they're going to have this season as opposed to last season. And I think they want to get a look at what this thing looks like. And I'm not really against it. I still think you have Josh Allen, and I don't think that you need that wide receiver one typically in the NFL today. We've seen teams that have done it without that, and they're hoping that Kincaid is the weapon that they drafted him to be. That's, to me, one of the biggest storylines I'm tracking for the next 6 months.
Yeah, he's making some excellent points, Danger, about Claypool. Did that change your opinion?
No, best case scenario is he's not a part of the team. He doesn't make the team. That's best case scenario for the Bills. Don't want him anywhere near the team.
See, here's the thing.
A guy who quit on his team doesn't belong in that locker room.
I wasn't making that argument to change Danger's mind. I was just talking about like all of the reasonable listeners to the program. I was trying to give them a little bit more extra, context in all this thing, because I know when you get on your,
hear me out, though, Matt. I mean, when you look at the moves that have been made here over the course of, from this offseason in general. Mm-hmm. It's hard to like the moves that they've made. I don't like all of the moves that they've made. I get that they had to make some of the moves that they made, but you took an offensive line that was cohesive. You completely gutted it. You have the potential to upset 3 positions on that offensive line. You moved on from arguably the most talented player on the offense. And in the draft, you traded with your arch nemesis on top of then following up with that, bring in a guy who quit on his team. I hope that it's just a guy that's a camp body. I hope it's a guy that they just bring in to kick the tires on. Because I don't want a guy who has quit on his team before he got to Chicago. I don't want that guy anywhere near my locker room.
All those are fair points, and I get it. Sometimes it's tough to see the entire forest through the trees, right? The entire picture. But I do think you need this year. You're at a very pivotal point in Josh Allen's career. And you can't just think about 2024. You have to think about the next 4 seasons. And I think getting out from Diggs at the time that they did was, to me, the most important move of this offseason. It has the potential to reap rewards and benefits for the next 3 or 4 years as they try to figure out what the next iteration of this offense is going to look like. Josh Allen is going to raise the profile of Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman in year 1 and whatever other myriad of wide receivers end up in that room. I think that the offensive line conversation, Mitch Morris has been super reliable the last couple of years. But you remember, those concussions a couple of years ago were seriously, I felt like they were operating on borrowed time with them. They're not going to go through a season like they did last year, I guarantee it, where you run that back and all 5 of your offensive linemen play every snap of the regular season. You have to be proactive when trying to keep together a successful contending team in the NFL. And the changes, very early on, they could be tough, and maybe it doesn't work out, to your point. But I think the aggressiveness to try to reimagine what this is going to look like, I think was necessary. Did they hit a home run on every single decision? Probably not, but I think that they're in a place where there's still a lot of weapons. They still have Josh Allen, and I'm not as concerned about the offensive line. I think they have depth on the offensive line with some pipeline pieces that I think are intriguing, and Mitch Morris is getting older, and that you fall off a cliff at any point, and that could take its own kind of axe to an offensive line. So, listen, I get it. There's nobody has a crystal ball. We can't see this clearly into week 6, week 10, week 16, how it all plays out. But I do want to come back on the program on that Tuesday in week 15 and see if you have the same energy of Claypool's catching touchdown passes. That's my thing. A lot of people are aggressively against this. If this pans out and he reverts to the guy that he was in his rookie season, 95% of these folks are going to be oh, where can I get my Chase Claypool jersey? So, I don't know.
Not me. I don't want him on the team. Get him away from Buffalo.
No, we save the audio here on everything, Matt. As Danger points out to me every so often. Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, and the Shout podcast. You brought up an interesting point about, hey, we really don't have an idea how this Joe Brady offense is going to evolve. So I mean, Matt, was that a big enough sample in your opinion to kind of make judgments? Because I can't imagine Brady put too many new things. I mean, can we reimagine this? We heard so much about 12 personnel. Well, they have 2 tight ends if they want to do that. Or the Ray Davis draft pick. Does this mean that actually this will be less Josh running and more of Cook and Davis carrying the ball? How do you reimagine this offense here if you're Joe Brady?
Well, I think first and foremost, we talked about this, those Stephon Diggs bubble screens were painful to watch. And to me, Curtis Samuel was target number 1 to take over in that role. If you go watch his highlights, going across multiple teams, whether it be with the Commanders or with the Panthers, Samuel with the ball in his hands on those screenplays is a serious weapon. So to me, that's going to make this offense hum a little bit more. And I think potentially, and why Brady is so committed to that part of the offense is because if those get to be working, and now teams have to game plan against them because there's a weapon in that spot that has some run after the catch, some physicality, some speed in short areas. Now you can't defend the deep part of the field in the same way. So maybe Josh Allen now, where they were having to really, dink and dunk their way down the field, you can, put some pressure on teams with your athletes at the line of scrimmage. I think Coleman can be a weapon in that department too, and then open up things down the field. And then to your point, yeah, I think this is going to be, since the time they hired Aaron Kromer, the shift to wanting to be a more run-centric team was underway. Go back and look at the Rams in their heyday. I mean, Todd Gurley was a superstar behind an Aaron Kromer offensive line. And that's another reason I don't have a problem with the Mitch Morse decision. Kromer had a hand in that decision. And I think that he believes that Connor McGovern can move over to center and play center. They went out and they drafted this kid that Kromer specifically went to Georgia to see Cedric Van Pran Granger, work him out, 2-time national champion, 3-year starter at a SEC powerhouse like Georgia. I think they're all in on this kid. So I think all of those things considered, the Bills have something they haven't had in a couple of years. They have a little bit of a unknown about what their offense is going to look like. Teams have had to prepare for the offense, knowing that you have to take Stephon Diggs out of it, knowing that they haven't historically been a great running team, and knowing that for a while there, Gabe Davis had drop issues. When Cole Beasley was gone, they didn't have the same presence out of the slot. They've brought in so many different flavors at receiver. They can run the 12 personnel, which I would imagine has been a point of emphasis all offseason. And then, by the way, you still have this weapon of Josh Allen who can do a little bit of everything. So, yeah, I think they believe in it. I think they hired Joe Brady to be the offensive coordinator because they believe in him, the energy that he brought, and his relationship with Allen. And they'll have had 9 months to go into the lab and figure out what this thing looks like. And for whatever reason, they think that a guy like Chase Claypool has a chance to get in here and give them something that maybe they didn't already have on the roster.
Matt, you mentioned Van Pan Granger and Keon Coleman, and I know that we're going to talk some rookie minicamp with you. Before we talk this weekend's festivities, what about a schedule release? Are we thinking next week is the week that we're going to get it? And what do you anticipate? Somebody has to cover the team, travel with the team. What are you kind of in your mind penciling mentally right now, penciling in your calendar, saying okay, which holidays am I working?
Oh, dude, don't ask him that question in case Ms. Perino's listening here, because Matt, they're going to be, hey, you're back on Thanksgiving or Christmas. Are you bracing for that?
Yeah, we got all the holidays this last season. So, I mean, I think my wife knows that most years the Bills are going to be playing in big spots as long as they have this quarterback. So I think we're planning for me to be going on Thanksgiving. It would be nice if it could be a home Thanksgiving game, because 3 of those 4 years that they played on Thanksgiving, they were all road games. Now the only home game they can host is the primetime game, so it would have to work that way. It wouldn't surprise me. I know a lot of Bills fans want the Patriots game to be the opener because, the weakest team probably on your schedule, division rival, at home, 1 o'clock maybe. Give me that for sure as someone that covers this team. But I could see them going to Houston for versus Stephon Diggs in the opener. I'm looking forward to the Seattle trip. Seattle's actually one of the last. I think there's only 4 stadiums now in the NFL that I haven't been to. So I'm super excited about that trip as well. I think it's going to be next week, though. I was talking to Sal Capaccio today. He is the schedule guru, and he said that there just hasn't been. They usually float stuff out the week of, and there just hasn't been enough happening this week to make them think that it's going to be Thursday. So yeah, my guess too, going off of my guy Sal, who's super plugged in on that, is maybe next week.
Matt, quick thought on rookie minicamp. What is it kind of all about? I mean, it's only the rookies, right? We're not going to see Josh Allen showing up and throwing balls to Keon Coleman, correct?
No, we'll see those tryout rookies, and so it's really hard to evaluate what we see out of practice because you have to take it with a grain of salt. If a guy makes drops a pass that's a yard behind him or at his cleats, there's some of the rookie tryout guys that we've seen over the years have been brutal. It was actually good the year they had Tyree Jackson from UB.
Oh, yeah.
I felt that was a really cool profile match to Josh. Obviously not Josh, and he ended up moving to tight end, but just the way that he could throw the ball a little bit. You don't usually get that every single year, but yeah, it'll be nice to see Coleman in person, see him work out. I saw one of the rookie clips of Xavier Worthy going viral this week for a drop, and I had a bunch of people in my DMs messaging me about it. And I'm like, I don't think this is new news. And I shared a clip from the Alabama game. I don't know if you guys remember that. If you watched that or saw the clip, he ran out wide open on the 3-yard line against Alabama. Had himself an overall good game, but nobody near him, and he dropped the same kind of pass. I think there's some issues with his hands, and I think that was mentioned in some of the scouting reports. And it wouldn't surprise me if the Bills kind of, one of the priorities that they had on the guys that they brought in this year were very reliable hands. And that's something that they want to try to, build that room out with guys that don't have drop problems after going through the seasons they did with Gabe Davis, who spent an entire offseason to get that out of his game. And then we had Diggs with drops last year. So I'm excited for rookie camp. I'm excited for, obviously, training camp for all the reasons we always talk about, but it's so cool to now have this huge shift in the veterans that have been here for so many years that you've established relationships with. And honestly, you have the same conversation so many times over and over again. It's hard to get new material because everybody's kind of got their, what they resort to, whether it be how they answer a question, what they say about something. So to have all these new faces and, young 10 rookies that are going to be involved and then all the UDFAs, I feel like the coverage is going to be so much, there's going to be a newness to it. I'm super excited about that.
So what are you working on this week with New York Upstate, and what are you working on the Shop podcast that we can check out, Matt?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have a 53-man roster projection with wide receiver 1 Chase Claypool.
Keep
on there.
him off that projection.
That'll come out, I think, either tomorrow.
Oh, big tall guy can go up and get it. Keon Coleman, Chase Claypool, big tall guys go up and get it. Coleman's going to be fine. I'm not worried about that. Keep Coleman away from Claypool. Don't let that guy poison the rookie at all.
Oh, there's such. Are you a Notre Dame fan?
No.
Okay,
not at all.
Yeah, there's some deep seated hate here. I feel it. It's okay. I get it.
He's a Bears fan and he is a secret Steeler fan. Will you just admit that on the air?
He quit on his team. How could anybody defend a guy in the NFL who quit on his team?
First of all, I'm not defending him. I'm defending the decision to sign him.
I get it. You need 90 guys. It's zero risk. He might still have game. Josh Allen's never had a quarterback like Josh Allen. I get all of that. But it doesn't change the fact that he quit on his team. He's a bad guy.
Well,
yeah. Well,
does that make somebody a bad person?
It's bad. Yes. In the NFL, yes.
No. Let's not. We don't know the circumstance. Okay, but this is going to turn into a completely different.
You know what, Matt? I was just going to say, hey, congratulations to you and Ryan.
The
award-winning Syracuse Press Club. I'm just so happy you guys got honored Saturday.
Oh yeah, that was great. I was so bummed that I couldn't be out there. We had a late opener in Little League, so priorities.
Yeah.
We got to make sure we keep those in order, but. Ryan represented us well, and the Syracuse Press Club takes such good care of us. Don't miss, final shout-out, don't miss Friday rookie camp. We will have our observations podcast right after, and those are super popular. We'll be really active on our insider text line, and then Wingnuts a week from Friday. We'll be back.
All right. Love it. So let's talk again next week. Matt, what do you say?
Sounds good. More Claypool talk. I can't wait.
Thanks, Matt.
Matt Perino covered the Bills, the Syracuse Post-Standard, NewYorkUpstate.com, and the Shout podcast as well.
Ooh, that got a little heated there.
I just don't want to see him on the team. That's it. If he doesn't make the team, no harm, no foul. You brought him in as a camp body, good. Get him out of here.
Well, see, what I see happening is he'll be on his best behavior. He has talent. He will make plays, and people will buy in.
Can't sell me on him.
And then something will crop up at an inopportune moment when games actually matter.
Yeah,
and then what? Are you cutting him in season?
You can't sell me on the benefit of that guy. You cannot. Not on a guy who quit on his team.
He's got a cool nickname, Mapletron.
That's fine. Great. Go have Mapletron be somebody else's problem.
Canadians are some of the happiest, friendliest, nicest people. I've never met Chase Claypool. No?
Well, maybe he's a nice guy to talk to. I don't know, but he quit on his team. I want no part of that guy. That's me. But I get it. I get what they're doing. We'll take a break. We got to come back. We've got some takes on tap. Seth Appert, Rochester Americans head coach, going to join us here in about a half an hour or so. You can pull up a stool and join us as well at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
You're up to the minute ticket count for the Amerks on Friday night. 9,883 tickets have now been sold. Team closing in on a sellout. Head coach Seth Appert will join us later this hour as we'll talk about the Amerks and Syracuse Game 5 coming up at the Blue Cross Arena on Friday night. Tonight in the NHL, in addition to the playoffs, it's the NHL Draft Lottery. 6:30 for the time on ESPN. Rochester Red Wings tonight playing at Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Yankees hosting Houston. The Mets are in St. Louis. One game in the majors as Marcus Semien homering on the first pitch. Texas off to the 1-0 lead in Oakland. 2 games tonight in the NBA playoffs. The Celtics and Cavs play game 1, as do Dallas and Oklahoma City. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
He scored!
Amerks Crunch, Friday at 7.
Game 5 back at Blue Cross Arena.
Let's go! Mike Danger.
Chase Claypool. The guy's a bum. I really can't believe that they signed that guy.
Gene Battaglia.
I'm trying to be above. I'm trying to be a better fan here, Mike. And I have you to thank.
My wish is that you just go all in soon, and then it'll be great.
The Mets win! Put it in the books! Yesterday's Met Gala in New York.
The defending champs in major trouble.
Ant-Man and the Timberwolves.
The Wolves. Jamal Murray threw a heating pad and a towel.
There probably aren't many fans in the building that have a heat pack.
The Knicks keep cooking, and so does Jalen Brunson. Knicks do get some fortunate calls from the officials in the final minute.
We're not expecting to get calls in here.
I'm going to nominate the officials from last night.
Way to have a night ref show.
The Bruins rolled through Florida 5-1 to open their second-round series.
Oh, yeah. The draft lottery is tonight, 6:30. What does it mean?
Oh, who cares? 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
20 minutes away from Rochester Americans head coach Seth Appert. He'll stop by for his weekly visit here in the sports bar. Danger and Battaglia. Big Game 5 coming up Friday night. We'll recap Saturday night, which I imagine was one of the more memorable nights he's had as a head coach in his coaching career. Seth Appert again joining us here at 425. We welcome your calls at 866-4326 and appreciate you stopping by the sports bar at 95.7 FM, AM 950. Our video stream also up on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester and twitch.tv/The Fan Rochester.
Yeah, it's some takes here, and we do have time for your calls in this segment before we get to the coach of the Amerks. Again, our number 866-4FAN, 866-4326. If you ask Bills fans, hey, what didn't you like about the draft? Like, number one, far and away number one. Why did you trade with Kansas City? I think it's important to kind of look at some other things that they did. You're like, not sure about that. And Mike Catalana brought this up yesterday. Like, we like the story of Ray Davis. Like, he may be a good running back, 4th rounder for the Buffalo Bills, but 4th round running back? Why? Look, we all are going to be high on Keon Coleman, right? When he gets to minicamp and out at Fisher, he's going to look great in shorts. He's going to look great catching passes. But the reality is, what if it doesn't work out? Hearing Mike Clay on One Bills Live today point out that just statistically, there's a 60% chance that Coleman will flame out. That's just a fact for second rounders. Bringing it back to the 4th rounder. Why wouldn't you have taken the best receiver on the board then and have more competition? The running back position, you can get that help elsewhere, okay? The Bills did this once, by the way, not at running back, but at drafting multiple players from the same position. We don't gripe as much as we should about Kyer Elam because, well, that kind of looks like a bust, does it not? But we don't gripe about it because you took a late-round pick, and it's worked out well for Christian Benford.
So I think there's a couple things here. One, I think what Perino said last hour when we had him on, this Joe Brady offense, what we saw of it last year and what I think we will see of it more of it this upcoming year is that the running game is going to be, I mean, they're going to take some of that heat off of Josh Allen. They're not going to force him to throw the ball. They don't want him to throw the ball as much as he's thrown the ball. And Keon Coleman might just be a guy that just goes up there and gets it, right? Like he's going to be that guy. Great hands, great, can go up and play above the rim and everything. Josh Allen, throw it up there, and don't worry, I'll come down and get it. My bigger question with the Bills, and what's been frustrating as we talk about this team through the course of this offseason, is it just feels like there's an insistence of them to make these kind of polarizing decisions. And they don't have to think about the fans when they're making the decision to trade down with Kansas City during the NFL draft. But you better hope it works, because we're not going to forget if Xavier Worthy is running past your defense, your corners, Christian Benford, right? We're not going to forget when Xavier Worthy runs by the guy who's a character guy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, if they had intel, this is the thing, and then we'll never know that, hey, Kansas City was going to pull the trigger with San Francisco or Baltimore anyways, and they would have gotten Worthy. And if you took Coleman, but then you're not moving up into the third round, like, I think that's a stretch, though, admit it.
There's a lot of arrogance around this team. There's a lot of arrogance. It's just coming off of the Bills. And I'm not willing to say right now, we haven't seen anything. We don't know. We hope that these decisions make sense, that they pan out, that they work. But it's a hard thing for me to wrap my arms around when it's just so clearly obvious to me that this year's roster is less talented than last year's roster. But we're going to expect greater results? I don't see it.
Well, I mean, what Matt kind of said in so many words, it's a shakeout year. You got a lot of things that, all right, included there, Chase Claypool, KJ Hamler, who was the kid, Justin Shorter. A lot of things could kind of, one of these things will shake out. And then you see what you have, and if you have enough, great. And if you don't, well, next year's cap is clean, and you can go buy whatever you want to buy. Perhaps a trade for every. This is not the year they're going to go trade.
Right, but a shakeout year, does a shakeout year mean you're not making the postseason?
Not necessarily, because I look.
That's what my fear is. My fear is that there's not enough talent on this roster for them to make the postseason.
I look at the rest of the division, and did anybody make up any ground? Don't tell me the Jets. Don't tell me Tua and the Dolphins.
Yeah, I kind of look at what Tua has offensively there as far as his weapons are concerned, and I think you should be envious of that. We should be envious of that. They have weapons. They signed OBJ. We signed Chase Claypool. They have Waddle. They have Hill. Yes, Josh Allen is a better quarterback. This is the arrogance that I'm talking about. Well, we have Josh Allen. This is going to be great. We can make anybody work with Josh Allen as our quarterback. I hope you're right.
Well, I mean, I go back, and it's interesting that Matt pointed this out. Like, wait a second. We're not going to hear from Brandon Beane until training camp.
Right.
Okay. What did Beane say after the Diggs trade? It's not September yet. So whatever we're saying about the wide receiver position, what he's saying is suspend your judgment. And who knows? Maybe the $10 million comes off for Tre'Davious White. Like, hey, we don't have enough. Let's go trade for so-and-so.
Yeah, I'm going to suspend judgment. But right now, there's so many polarizing decisions that have been made this offseason, and it's a hard thing for me to love. It's a hard thing for me to get excited about as you head into training camp, as you head into OTAs. We'll see. We'll suspend our judgment until we actually see what this team looks like on the field. But, man, it sure feels to me like this is a less talented version of what you had last year. And last year, you still fell short. Austin Rivers was a guest on McAfee. He brought up a point that I love. It'll make NFL guys mad, but right now in the NBA, you could easily find a couple dozen guys and plug them into a role in the NFL. The opposite, however, isn't true. It's not like you can find NFL guys and plug them in the NBA. The skill set of an NBA player could certainly translate to football, and I'm sure there's plenty of good basketball players in the NFL. But watching these guys through the course of the postseason here, the stars of the NBA, it's just a reminder of how incredible their athleticism is. And if you want to double down on that athleticism, go watch the Stanley Cup playoffs, because what they do it on ice.
Yeah, I mean,
and skates.
Like, it's interesting. Like, we've had, in our lifetime, Deion Sanders, and we've had Bo Jackson. That's football and baseball, and we don't get this quite as often. But You would have thought we would have had like somebody like, yeah, you know what? I want to actually try the NBA here. Like the best example I can come up with, Donovan McNabb, but he couldn't see the court really. He was just coming in garbage time for Boeheim. So why is it that we haven't had somebody say, hey, I want to do this?
The skills just aren't transferable.
Greg Paulus is another
example. They're just not transferable. Like you could get guys in the NBA who could be what Keon Coleman is, let's say, as an example, right? Go up and get it, guys that play, quote-unquote, play above the rim. But you can't find a lot of guys who, in the NFL, can consistently hit a logo three. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Tony Gonzalez played basketball. Antonio Gates, it's another project. What translates? I don't know if you knew this or not, Bill Belichick, but he liked lacrosse players. Chris Hogan played lacrosse.
Oh. So there's that.
That translates. Danger, do you remember this interaction, Caitlin Clark's introductory press conference where in Indianapolis there's a columnist for the local paper. His name is Greg Doyle, and he gets a little creepy, commenting on the heart symbol to Clark, quote, well, start doing it to me and we'll get along just fine.
I remember that. That was awkward.
Yeah, well, turns out there's more to the story. Doyle was suspended by the paper for 2 weeks. He's also not allowed to cover games in person for the Indiana Fever. Now, what I'm not clear on here is, was it the paper saying you can't do this, or was this the team? Was it the WNBA? Again, I'm not sure. Danger, here where I come down to this. I didn't agree that Maddie Glab got suspended for saying something about Diggs that was technically private, okay? And I'm not sure what a suspension for Doyle does here, but let's be honest. He's got the new title. He's creepy old man. That's how he'll always be viewed, for that one viral moment. No 2-week suspension is going to fix that.
That is interesting. I wonder if it did come from the WNBA or if it came from Caitlin Clark's people to the paper. You have to suspend him for this, or we want justice for this.
I would think that that's the last thing you would want. Like, hey, that's not how you start off. Like,
it wasn't like this was publicized, though, that he was suspended. We just knew the awkward moment occurred.
He kept it right, so he kind of disappeared. It was Bob Kravitz, who I think doesn't work for the paper. He's the one reporting that, hey, by the way, the reason you haven't heard from Doyle here in a couple of weeks is because he's been suspended.
That's just crazy to me that the paper takes themselves that seriously, that they would suspend him for an awkward exchange.
It's awkward.
It's an awkward exchange.
It's awkward, and I think it's actually...
Doesn't mean he's a bad reporter. He didn't do anything really wrong other than have an awkward exchange with his star player.
I think it's a learning, something you can learn from, because if he was talking to any male player, he's not saying, would you do that to me? No, he wouldn't do that at all. You're there to do a job, and but did that merit a 2-week suspension? I don't think so.
I wonder, yeah, and then I wonder if it is the paper, them taking themselves so seriously that they have to suspend him, or is this the WNBA or Caitlin Clark's people saying, no, we're not going to put up with this. We have zero tolerance, and we need justice. We need to set a tone.
Because I think the Maddie Glab thing, I think that was once Diggs tweeted about it,
it's over.
He got her suspended.
For sure.
Yeah, all he had to do was say, hey, you know what? That was off mic. Her and I are cool. Diggs got her suspended.
Non-sports take from me today. We have a new enemy that has emerged in our society. And honestly, I can't believe that we are actually at this point. Because you've heard me mention my disdain in the past for the person who can't return their shopping cart to the corral. And I'm so OCD, Gene, I actually admit it. I hate the disheveled mess that the corral is as well. I can't park next to it. It's simple. You have the small carts on one side, the big carts on the other side. I can't look at it. It drives me nuts. It gets me angry. So I park as far away from the corral as I can, but I always return my cart to the corral. But you know the person who doesn't do it. That person is a giant a-hole. So it's almost as if we're entirely unable to follow simple instruction. Well, I'm walking down the stairs the other day of our esteemed High Falls parking garage, and I noticed something in the stairwell. One of those plastic flossers.
Yeah, I saw it too.
You saw it too?
Yeah.
Okay. So you know I'm not making this up. Floss and toss guy is worse than doesn't return shopping cart guy. I'm going to go ahead and put floss and toss guy up there just behind guy who spits out his gum on the sidewalk or street and above the guy who won't exit the plane by row. You're disgusting. And it's a reminder, if you're too big to do the small things like, throw your flosser in the trash, you're too small to do the big things.
Well, I had a similar take back when we were doing our cleanup day here, where we as a
Earth Day,
and we were
one thing.
Thank you, and we were out there, High Falls, and wait a second, I know the winter. Now the disclaimer here is okay. You could be walking along, and the wind carries something away, but the amount of garbage we picked up in High Falls. On the one hand, I feel like, hey, we did something good for our neighborhood, for the environment. On the other hand, I'm thinking, who the hell are these people that are just throwing things out? And you see this how often where somebody, whether they flick a butt out, I guess, or doing whatever it takes, just throwing things out. We need bigger fines for litter bugs. We need to enforce that.
I want to believe in humanity. So when I see large amounts of trash like what we have to pick up at High Falls, I want to believe it's from like people's bins that get blown around and that they, it's just it's just nature kind of throwing stuff around.
Or maybe somebody put the flosser and it fell out of their pocket or whatever.
I just think it's disgusting.
No, and
Gum guy is the worst guy. The guy that spits out his gum on the sidewalk or street is the worst guy. You just throw it in the trash. You're stepping in it now and you're affecting the lives of others. You're ruining other people's lives. Grocery cart guy is an inconvenience. Floss and toss guy, it's gross. Gum guy is still the worst. It's not that hard. Spit your gum out in the garbage. What's wrong with you?
Danger, we have some local breaking news here.
Breaking news in the sports bar.
Ow! It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
Congratulations to a good friend of the show. The new head coach for Gates Chi-Li football is Andre Fontenette.
Yeah! All right. That's our guy.
That's our guy.
Like Andre. Even though he's a Raiders guy. It's okay. It's all right.
No. If you're identifying as a Raider fan, you are a Raider fan.
No, for sure.
Like, honestly, like I almost, I feel sorry for you, Andre. But no, Andre Fontenette played at Churchville Chi-Li, played at Syracuse, and was working for Bobby Bates, coaching with him at that McQuaid program, and now he's getting his own program. Andre, you're going to do great out there.
I think that's real exciting. One of our favorites in the sports bar getting an opportunity, Section 5 football, and that's big news. Congratulations, Andre. Love you, man. That's awesome. One of our favorites. All right, we got to get to Seth Appert, speaking of our favorites. Gene, am I allowed to engage Seth Appert in a story from my youth hockey days? I know our time is valuable, but there's something that happened in that game on Saturday, and it just reminded me of how special hockey can be. Like, it really feels like the only sport where you can look at your opponent, size them up, and say with confidence, we're going to beat them, even though they might be bigger or faster or stronger, because it's hockey.
I just want to ask Seth, okay, I know you said the team were going to win this game. Did you really believe it? Did you really believe it when you were a kid? I don't know.
Amherst head coach Seth Appert stopping by the sports bar next. Big week for the Rochester Americans, and we'll get into it with him. And as well as your phone calls at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
Sports Update.
It's going to be a packed barn coming up Friday night. The Amerks closing in on a sellout. 779 tickets remain. That's it. Game 5, Rochester and Syracuse. The winner to advance. The loser season is done. We'll talk to head coach Seth Apper of the Rochester Americans. He joins us next year in the Sports Bar. The NHL Draft Lottery is tonight. That's coming up at 6:30. Interesting name joining the roster for the Rochester Red Wings, Joey Gallo. Former New York Yankee, Dodger, Texas Ranger. Gallo done on a rehab assignment from Washington. The Rochester Red Wings tonight playing at Scranton-Wilkes-Barre. On the Major League scoreboard, just one game in progress. Texas already up 9-0 on Oakland. They're in the second. The Yankees host Houston tonight. The Mets are in St. Louis. 2 games in the NBA playoffs. Celtics and Cavs play game 1, as do Dallas and Oklahoma City. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
On the way through, immediately, I just told the guys, take a break, take a breath. We're going to win this game. And we'll be back in 7 or 8 minutes to talk about it. And then when I came back, we just very calmly laid out how we believed we could get back into it. A few execution things systematically, and then, a few things just in terms of giving them something to shoot for. We got to get one the first 6-7 minutes. You get one the first 6-7, you put the seed of doubt in their mind, instead of them being able to ride out an easy victory. Then you get one in the next 7 or 8 minutes after that, and now you're sitting there 5 minutes to go, and you have a chance to tie it late. So credit to the guys that we got one in the first shift, so that helped. And Byro, Rusek, and Weisbach were just excellent in the third period, leading the way.
Amerks head coach Seth Appert joining us now in the Sports Bar. We're not going to ask you about your third period message. We just heard it right there, Seth. But I want to share a story because this is why I love hockey. I grew up playing in Minnesota. You grew up playing in Minnesota, so you might appreciate this. But I remember being a teenager, and we were at some tournament. We were in a tournament in Fergus Falls, Minnesota. And
the Otters.
Yes,
the Otters.
You got it. The small ragtag group of white trash kids from East Grand Forks, Minnesota, are playing in this tournament. And our opponent in the second round of this tournament was Anoka. And Anoka is a suburb of Minneapolis, and it's a big school, and there's big kids, and they're bigger than us, they're faster than us, and they look sharp, and we look disheveled. And I remember looking at my coach and looking at them, and we were having a warm-up, and I just kind of looked at him like, you know what, we're going to win this game. And he looked at me, he's like, I think we're going to win this game too. And when you said that in your your answer to what your message was to your team, down 3-0 with the season on the line, I mean, you say it, but it feels like hockey is the sport where you can actually size up your opponent and get that win and say it with confidence and no, this is the outcome. We're going to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's some of it is the belief you've earned in each other through what you've gone through, and that's not just this year. This year's a lot of it, but with a chunk of our team, obviously, it's been multiple years, and multiple years of going through hardships, adversity, and never giving up on each other. And so, I think when you do that, you earn trust in each other, and they've earned my trust, and so that's number one. I think number two is, I wanted to get their minds off of what just happened and onto what's going to happen. So, sometimes if I don't go in the locker room immediately after a period very often. I mean, we're talking 3-4 times a whole season. But I just felt I did it before Game 5 overtime in Syracuse last year because they had come back on us. And I just felt like it was important to just get their minds looking forward instead of looking back, and get them in the right frame of mind heading into the third period.
On the game winner by Murray, I mean, there's so many things. First of all, Murray. I mean, what more can we say about what he brings? But also the question here, Steph, because you listen to this and there's so many Amerks fans cheering. What was that atmosphere like? How many Amerks fans do you think were there in Syracuse on Thursday and Saturday?
It's a good question. It was amazing. Not quite the extent it was in Game 5 last year, but it was a lot. And it was loud in the third period. I mean, we scored to make it 3-2,
and Linus Weisbach, goes to the crowd and is like revving them up, and his arms are in the air like it's a home game, which was amazing. And then when we win it, it was electric, and even after, it was an hour after the game, at least an hour after, and we're going out to the bus, and there's still probably 300-400 fans there chanting guys' names, even guys that weren't in the lineup that night, chanting their names as they're walking out to the bus. And it was a special win. Now we got to finish the job. There's a lot of work to be done. But it was, you're not involved in many games like that. Elimination game on the road, down 3-0. It was a heck of a victory. And obviously we had a few days to be able to, to enjoy it, and now get to work here the last couple of days getting ready for Friday.
Seth, where do you draw the line in your position in terms of the ability to win a game versus the development of a player? Obviously, when you're in a playoff situation and it's do or die, I don't think anybody's going to fault you or any coach for shortening the bench because you're going to ride the hot hand. But is there a line there in terms of development, or is it just a matter of, no, we're going to go with the guys that are going to win us this game?
Well, it's a balance in this league. It really is. And that is the ultimate balance in the American Hockey League. And, I think that I was well trained for it from coming from the national program, because when you're coach a U17 year in the national program, there's very few guys that you want to put on the ice in big moments, because they're all children and none of them really know how to play the right way. And what you learn is by putting a lot of them out there in big moments that they grow and they learn and they get better from those. So, putting the lineup together is a collaboration. Like Jason and Kevin are phenomenal with me. They give me a lot of say and a lot of autonomy. And I think I've earned that. But I always, talk to them about, if young high prospects are going to be out of the lineup or down the lineup, whatever that is, those are discussions that we have to make sure. I think it's important that we're all on the same page with how we do things. And winning is important, but winning with development is part of it. So that's the ultimate balance in the American League. And, depending on the game and depending on the moment. But part of development is also earning your ice time. I said that in my interview with Kevin, 4 years ago, that free ice time is not development. That's just encouraging bad habits. So part of development is making our young players earn their ice time.
Seth Appert, head coach of the Rochester Americans, as the team will be playing for a ticket to the North Division Finals. You got to win coming up Friday night. Seth, what is fun about this year's team is that there's so many guys that came back this year, and one of them that played a big role in that win Saturday night, he wasn't on the ice last year for the postseason, that being Brandon Byro. Where would the team be today if he's not for him and for his line mates, for that matter?
Yeah, that line was Byro, Weisbach, and Rusek, along with Davies and Ciccone. Those guys willed us back into that game. There are others too, Murray and Murph and Jobst, but those guys in particular willed us back into that game. Injuries are interesting in the playoffs, and I think, 3 years ago, that first playoff run we have, I think if Pekka Luukkonen, Mersch, and Weisbach are healthy, and Samuelson as well, like maybe we have a chance to win it all. Last year we have Byro out, who was our most of the season was our best player. Like, if you don't have Brandon Byro, you're probably not winning that game. And he's a special hockey player. His growth over the last 4 years from a young pro that wasn't always physically engaged to be a dominant player to being what he is now is just an absolute warrior, just a warrior. That is one of our best penalty killers, one of our best power play players, one of our best 5-on-5 players. It's just impressive the kind of player he's turned himself into.
Seth, what about Brett Murray? He gets the game-winning goal. He returns to the lineup. How's he feeling? No worse for the wear, I hope, and I'm sure that he's got an emotional rush after collecting that game winner in overtime.
Yeah, I mean, he came back probably about a week early. Obviously, he had to be medically cleared. Otherwise, we wouldn't have played him. So he was cleared to play, but he hadn't had a team practice yet. He was skating with Nick Craven, our strength coach, and Craven does an amazing job. Our players, when they come back from injuries, our players are, from a conditioning standpoint, they're ready to play because Nick Craven was a college hockey player. He can take them on the ice and do things with them. And so he was physically ready from a conditioning standpoint, but he hadn't had a team practice. And here's the difference Brett Murray makes. Not only does he score the goal, but we had 2 minutes of higher ozone time in that game than we had in any other game in the series. And not all of it's Brett, but a lot of it's Brett. He wins puck battles. He gets us out of the D zone because he's really good in the wall. He gets us into the offensive zone. And the longer you play in the offensive zone, good things happen. And the less you play in the defensive zone, as good things happen. So he's a possession machine, and he was massive down the stretch for us in that game.
Seth Appert, our guest here. Boy, we haven't talked about Devin Levi. I don't know if there's any other words we can say, but these stats, Seth, 938, his save percentage in this series, 101 saves over the last 2 games. I mean, Seth, what more can you say about what your goaltender has done for your team so far?
No, Devin's been great. He's been great in play. He's been great in attitude. I just really like his approach, and we've needed it because Halverson's been great for them. It's been, even though they outshot us pretty significantly in Game 3, Halverston still went, 36 for 37 or whatever that is. That's a pretty darn good night too. So, the goaltending on both sides has been very, very good. And so Levi playing the way he's playing has been critical for our success.
Seth, last week when we spoke before, we got to this last weekend, which was unbelievable for the team to bounce back and have that comeback. You mentioned that with these teams and in any series, teams that are familiar with each other, you're going to find little adjustments to make. They're going to make adjustments. You're going to try to adjust to those adjustments and so on and so on. And I imagine you getting Murray back means that Syracuse is going to have to adjust for Murray back. So in anticipation, in this chess match that you're playing in your head, what adjustments do you see your team having to make here in advance of Game 5?
Yeah, I'll probably keep those private. I appreciate the question.
I'm not off, though, right?
No, you're on. I mean, we showed video today to our team and then practice things that here's where they're creating their offense. Here's where we're creating our offense. Here's how we're creating our offense. And so you're trying to put them in situations, number one, to mentally and visually see what's working and what's not working, and then how we can attack those areas. I think that is of critical importance is placing your guys in the mental mindset to understand what is working and what's not working and why. And then the adjustments you need to make both offensively and defensively. And, Murray adds another massive net front presence for us. That's where he scored the goal. We scored 4 goals in the blue paint on Saturday, right? All 4 of our goals were within 1 foot, if not inside the blue paint. And that's where you need to score at this time of the year, and there's very few line rush goals. Even look at the NHL playoffs. Like, maybe one a game. There may be one of those special line rush goals a game, but for the most part, the goals at this time of the year are scored dirty. They're scored in the blue paint. They're scored where the ice is hard. And Brett Murray just helps us do that at a high level.
Yeah, it's not like we've had this big body of work, Seth. We've only had 4 games, so I'm just kind of throwing that disclaimer out here. But, I mean, Rosane had a phenomenal penalty shot goal earlier in this series. But is that part of the development, too, for these younger players, Kulik, Rosane specifically, that this is just a different brand of hockey? Your thoughts on what they've been going through here in this opening series?
Well, we've talked. Rosie's got 2 goals, and that's even strength goals. That's not easy to do. I think Game 3, Rosane was our best player. So, it's funny. I met with both of them today. We talked about they just They got to be okay with the fact that it's just not going to be a line rush series. Most of the playoffs isn't, and certainly isn't against Syracuse. It's just not going to be that way. 78% of our offense right now is coming not from line rushes. So that is forcing turnovers or ozone play. And so if you only want to be a line rush player, you're missing out on 78% of the offense right now. So, and they're good enough to do those things. Now, the beauty of what they've done, though, is I've been on them for 2 years, just as I was on Quinn and Paterka, is that, if you're an NHL player that gets 60, 70 points, you're going to get those 60, 70 points in 40, 45, 50 games. There's 30 to 40 games that you don't get a point in. So what are you doing in the 30 to 40 games you don't get a point in? And if it's nothing, you're of no use to us. And the credit to Cooley and Rosie, they're playing great defense. Cooley had 3 massive hits, like violent hits on Saturday nights. Roseanne's become one of our best penalty killers. And that's part of it in the playoffs is how do you help your team win when offense isn't coming easy for you that night? And so that's part of growing up and becoming a winning hockey player. And those guys are doing a good job of that.
Seth, what kind of a home ice advantage are you expecting on Friday night? The barn looks to be sold out by the time we get there.
I think the barn's going to be sold out by, when the time I show up at the rink tomorrow morning. Really, it's going to be insane. I mean, it's just, I think the combination, right, of Game 5, obviously we've had 2 Game 5 wins the last couple of years. They've both been on the road. So Game 5, our fans haven't had that in a long time. And then combine that with the style and the dramatics of our most recent victory. I think that the city's buzzing about it. I think there's 9,500 or 9,700 already sold, whatever it is. And, that our ticket people and our marketing people are doing an awesome job. And it's going to be an incredible atmosphere, and just really fortunate to be part of something like that.
Does one team have more pressure over the other?
It's a good question. I mean, I think, you could argue either way. So I say no. I think you could argue either way. You could argue that the home team has more pressure because you're supposed to win at home. I think you could argue that they have more pressure because they were up 3-0 in the third period, and we're 1 period away from closing us out, so they have more pressure. So, I think at the end of the day, we've had 4 one-goal games, 3 overtimes, and 1 that was won late in the third period. So, these are 2 really, really good hockey teams. And somebody, unfortunately, is going to have to go home, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure it's not us.
So, Seth, you always have the open door on our show. You ask us for anything, we would do it. But I just got to say, though, superstition, Danger and I are coming down. We're doing our show at the Blue Cross from 3 to 7. It's like a 4-hour Amherst pregame. We're going to be in the concourse. I'd love to have you stop by, but we've won in the past where you haven't stopped by on game day. So are you fine with that?
I've heard that Nathan Pace is supposed to stop by.
We haven't had Pace on for a while. He's long overdue.
Blowing us off, though. Like, he's always got something
blowing you off. I think me and Pace are good. I think you have a thing with Pace.
Pace is a Rochester legend here. I can't imagine anybody being blowing anybody off in this great town. So.
No, yeah, we love Pace. I'm just busting his chops. Seth, good luck on Friday, and we're looking forward to talking about a great win coming up next Tuesday.
I look forward to talking to you guys Tuesday.
You got it. Seth Appert, Rochester Americans head coach, giving us some time here on a very busy week where Game 5 is Friday night. Winner take all to advance to the North Division Finals.
It's serious. Like, nope, not telling you any strategy, Danger.
I wasn't necessarily looking for the strategy, but, he brought up last week the adjustments, that these little adjustments that happen over the course of a series with an opponent that knows you and you know them, and there's really no secrets. And I have to imagine that bringing Murray in kind of unexpected a week early might have been the thing that threw off Syracuse a little bit in that game.
They don't win that game, right?
You needed them.
Yeah.
You needed them. The crunch getting their reinforcements from Tampa probably was something that the Amherst had to adjust to earlier in the series, right? Like there are little things that happen through the course of the series that they're trying to one-up each other on.
Yeah, and we got a question asking us to ask Seth about shortening the lines. It's kind of along those same lines. Like we asked him, he's not going to tell us if he's going to do that, but I think he answered the question very interestingly, like, hey, we're not going to just reward ice because you're here. So that kind of answers it in a way. Like,
part of your development is you earn your time on the ice. I mean, you heard Lindy Ruff say that at his introductory press conference. It's the number one weapon that he has for his players to use for his players as motivation. Like, if you're not going to perform, you're not going to get on the ice. I don't think that changes just because you're, quote unquote, a developmental league. I think that's probably the way it goes. And if you're in a situation where it's winner take all, it's do or die, damn right. Ride the hot hand and get the guys out there that are going to make a difference for you, shift in and shift out. Man, I love our conversations with Seth Appert every Tuesday afternoon here in the Sports Bar. I'm fired up for Friday. Gino mentioned it. We're going to be live from the Blue Cross Arena Friday afternoon, 3 until 7. We'll give a little added love there, an extra hour Sports Bar after hours leading up to puck drop just after 7 o'clock from Blue Cross Arena. If you're going to the game, and a lot of you are, join us and stop by and say hi. We'll be in the upper atrium concourse there, right to the right. When you take a right when you go up the escalators, the stairs, kind of like above where the box office is, right? I think that's the best way to describe
that's perfect.
Right above the box office. That's where we'll be hanging out. And you mentioned it as well. Nathan Page and others will be stopping by throughout the course of the afternoon on Friday as we gear up for Game 5. You'll hear all of the Emirates postseason action on your home for Rochester Americans hockey, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Yeah, special thanks to Derek, too, for helping out and everybody behind the scenes, too.
Derek, like he's got anything going on. All he's doing is overhauling every studio in our building with brand new equipment. He's doing it with a broken digit. Yeah, Derek's a rock star, and we appreciate it.
Wait, he broke his finger? I didn't know. How did that happen?
He probably broke it trying to give you the finger. He gives you the finger so often that one time he just didn't accident. Now it's an occupational hazard. I broke my finger trying to give Gene the finger, playing our stupid game where we try to surprise each other by giving each other the finger. We've got happy hour coming up in a couple few. Man, what a great time of year for a sports fan. And it doesn't matter what your flavor of vodka is. If you like the NBA, it's delivering. If you like the NHL, that's on fire too. Locally, of course, we've got our Amerks, and we're all looking forward to Friday night. So we'll dive into a little bit of what we saw last night from the court to the rink, and also we'll get into a little bit of what we can expect tonight as well. And we had a good conversation, spirited conversation with Matt Perino of the Syracuse Post-Standard. It wasn't all Chase Claypool talk. I mean, there were some nuggets to take from there that we can also discuss as well.
Yeah, and lots of time for your calls here in Happy Hour, too. You want to join us? You're an Amherst fan. Maybe you went to Syracuse. You still want to crow about that. You're welcome to call us. Our phone number is 866-4FAN, 866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports.
9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Ameryk's closing in on a sellout for Friday night. 779 tickets remain as of 5 p.m. here today. Of course, we'll have the call Friday, 5 o'clock here on The Fan Rochester. It is going to be Game 5. We will be broadcasting live from the Blue Cross Arena from 3 to 7 here on The Fan Rochester coming up on Friday. The NHL Draft Lottery tonight at 6:30. The Buffalo Sabres with a 3% chance of winning the top choice. Joey Gallo has been sent down to the Rochester Red Wings. They play at Scranton Wilkes-Barre tonight. Gallo is down from Washington on a rehab assignment. Yankees hosting Houston tonight. The Mets are in St. Louis. Just one game in the majors as Texas is leading at Oakland 11-2. They're in the fourth. Two games in the NBA playoffs tonight. The Celtics and Cavaliers play game one, as do the Dallas Mavericks in Oklahoma City. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
He scored!
Ameryk's Crunch, Friday at 7.
Game 5 back at Blue Cross Arena.
Let's go!
Mike Danger.
Chase Claypool. The guy's a bum. I really can't believe that they signed that guy.
Gene Battaglia.
I'm trying to be above. I'm trying to be a better fan here, Mike. And I have you to thank.
My wish is that you just go all in soon, and that it'll be great.
The Mets win! Put it in the books!
Yesterday's Met Gala in New York.
The defending champs in major trouble.
Ant-Man and the Timberwolves.
The Wolves. Jamal Murray threw a heating pad and a towel.
There probably aren't many fans in the building that have a heat pack.
The Knicks keep cooking, and so does Jalen Brunson. Knicks do get some fortunate calls from the officials in the final minute.
We're not expecting to get calls in here.
I'm going to nominate the officials from last night.
Way to have a night ref show.
The Bruins rolled through Florida 5-1 to open their second-round series.
Oh, yeah. The draft lottery is tonight, 6:30. What does it mean?
Oh, who cares?
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
It's happy hour in the sports bar. Welcome on in. And thanks for listening on your ride home at 95.7 FM, AM 950, where we sound our best. The free to download Odyssey app, your smart device, when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan, or maybe you're watching the sports bar on our stream on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, twitch.tv/The Fan Rochester. Don't forget to like and subscribe when you're there, and you'll always know when we're live in the sports bar. I'm Danger, that's Battaglia.
Interesting conversation we had with Matt Perino. It ended up more being a debate here on Chase Claypool, where Matt does bring up a good point. If you take a look at his numbers, his first year playing with Ben Roethlisberger, there really isn't anything beyond Khalil Shakir on this Bills roster that can kind of match that. But Danger, you are digging in.
No, I don't want him on the team. My hope is for the Bills is that he does not make the final 53. He's practice squad material, and you can do better.
No, I don't even think you want him on the practice squad. Why would you even want him in the building at that point?
Yeah, right. I mean, a guy who quits on his team, I want to like the guys on the team, right? Like, there are some guys on the team that's questionable. And I know that there's always going to be a polarizing figure or two. And I know that there are a lot of people that when Steph Diggs left the Bills said, good riddance. We don't want that guy. Talented player, really talented player. Like Von Miller, yeah, once talented player, future Hall of Famer, not really a guy I can get behind at this point.
No. Entirely different situation. Right. Like, you're kind of stuck here with Vaughn for another year.
Right. And Chase Claypool is just another one of those guys where it's like, ugh, I just can't get behind. I can't get excited about that guy. Even if he shows up in the preseason and makes plays, I can't get excited about him because I know his past. And that's in him. Somewhere in him, he thought, you know what would be good? I'm going to quit on my team. I can't believe he still has a job. I can't believe a team would want to take that guy in. But I get it. I get everything that Perino's saying, and I'm not saying that the Bills are wrong for doing what they've done, but I don't like it. I don't like it. And you're allowed not to like it, right? Like, when we asked Catalani yesterday, what'd you think of the Bills trading back with the Chiefs? I don't like it. And that's kind of been my theme with this team this offseason. I don't like it. I don't like the moves they've made. I don't like the decisions that they've made. I know that some of them had to be made. I don't like it. That's it.
Yeah, I totally understand their Danger, and what I think is happening is well, let's clean up the cap, and can we just be good enough with this roster to win the division, and we'll see what happens. Matt had a kind of an interesting point, I'm paraphrasing, but when you look at the collection of parts on offense, it's not as good as it was last year. Who knows who could develop here, but what shakes out here? Will that be Claypool? Will it be KJ Hamler? Will it be Justin Shorter? Will it be somebody we don't even know right now? Just because there's going to be opportunity there hasn't been there before for targets and playing time and whatnot.
We're already doing the exercise where we're trying to figure out who the 6 receivers are that they're going to keep on the roster.
Of course.
Okay. So let's do it. Shakir, Coleman, Curtis Samuel. There's 3.
3.
Okay. This is where it gets fun. Mac Hollins, Justin Shorter, Chase Claypool, KJ Hamler, Andy Isabella, Quintez Cephas, Tyrell Shavers, Brian Thompson.
Okay, that's 11. Process of elimination. I'm going to kick off Isabella because what we learned last year was he sat on the practice squad all last year, and anybody who's on the practice squad, anything can go grab him. Nobody did last year, so why would anybody this year? So hard for me to see the Bills burning a spot in the 53, but you know what? Andy Isabella, you're welcome to be the practice squad player, and if you get 1 or 2 call-ups, so be it, but I don't personally want him anywhere around. Boy, when you phrase it like that, you're now almost hoping, boy, I hope they have something from Justin Shorter.
You know
boy,
what?
I hope they have.
They can't be done. They can't be done. They just can't be done. This can't be it. This can't be what you're going into the season with. When your the bottom 3 of your 6 receivers could be potentially Shorter, Hollins, and Claypool. That's I'm sorry.
What about Hamler as a returner? And Shorter, you're hoping Shorter make his, and you're only going with 5. That can be done.
I would
too.
actually take a guy with questionable decision-making in Quintez Cephas, who didn't play last year. I would take him over Claypool. He's a knucklehead, didn't follow the rules.
But on the football field, hey, you could make
maybe he's all right on the So whether we want to admit it or not, wide receiver is going to be something that we're paying attention to at training camp because there's going to be 3 guys, maybe 4 guys that you say, oh yeah, they're a lock.
I think good point here from Jack writing in on X. Jack is his real name.
Not a real name, though.
It's not a real name, but that is Jack's real name because he showed me his license. Okay. Said, how dare you? Quote, a guy that quits on his team like OBJ.
Oh, nobody cares when I'm right, by the way. I think it was yesterday at this time we were talking about how
the Met
Gala was going on, and my daughters were all excited to watch the Met Gala like they are every year. And I'm like, if it's not Diggs, because last year Diggs was at the Met Gala, if it's not Diggs this year, who from the NFL is going to show up?
Well, Diggs did last night.
He was there last night.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't see Diggs.
Yeah. Well, you know why? Because your feed is probably full of Buffalo Bill stuff. You have to go search this out. And there's not as many Houston Texan fans there, but it was some designer hooking up with Diggs with something. That's got to be a hustle, right? You're going there to wear this, and then whoever oversees
it's all promotion, man. And if you have the means, if you're Steph Diggs and you're like, you know what? I'll spend $400,000 on a ticket or whatever the price of a ticket is.
$75,000.
Okay.
It is like you cannot wave your finger at the Masters and be like, this is wrong with society, and then say, but this is art. No, I'm sorry. They're one and the same.
And everybody that's there is a shill for something. Their own personal brand or the designer that they're wearing, whatever it is, everybody that's there is a shill. Every one of them.
Right. So OBJ was there last night, and it looked like he was wearing some sort of
you call him, you call him like a matador. He looked like a matador. Yeah. And my daughter found the picture of OBJ, and I called him a matador like you had suggested, and she's like, those are flowers. I'm like, yeah, it kind of looks, because the theme was something like captured garden or garden regrowth, or I don't know what. Anyways, I was right. I knew OBJ would be there, and he was there.
For those who care, Steph Diggs wore a black suit, no shirt underneath, showing off a chest tattoo, very glittery. No flowers on it. Did not stick with the theme. But go ahead.
Okay. No, that's it. I feel like I predicted that OBJ would make his appearance known at the Met, and there he was.
There he was. But OBJ did quit on his team, Danger. He did quit on Cleveland. Did say, get me out of here because I can't work with Baker Mayfield, and maybe that was the Cleveland thing. Look, Jack, that's absolutely true. Here's the difference. One guy's super talented, and Chase Claypool 1 year, that doesn't cut it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like
we can forgive a lot of misgivings if you're talented. I mean, we don't know how bad things were behind closed doors with Steph Diggs. You tolerate it because he's talented. He's uber talented. But you know that it was probably a pain to try and manage that guy when things weren't going well. You could forgive a lot of sins when you're talented. I just don't think he's that guy. And he quit on his team. So is it Hollins and Shorter? And then you're leaving it up to, one slot for like 6 guys to compete for? It's gonna be fun.
Shavers on the 50.
Yeah, Tyrell Shavers. Cephas will be interesting. I'm interested to see what that guy has after a year off for being suspended from the Lions.
Okay, so here's another. I think you would get good odds on this. Of the 5 or 6 receivers on the final 53, one is not on the roster right now. True or false?
I think that's true.
I agree. I think that's true.
I think they have to. I think you can't. I mean, if you're going into camp with this, guys, I don't know. I really don't know. Because the rookie isn't going to get on the field right away. I think we all have to brace for that. I think we all want to know that week 1 he's going to be impactful. I'm not holding my breath.
Look at how Sean McDermott, other than Tre'Davious White, treats rookies.
Yeah. I'm not going to hold my breath. Maybe this is a rare instance.
Well, unless we get like 17 starting to assert himself. This is my offense. This is what I want.
I need that guy.
I need that guy.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Josh is ready to kind of step up to that level.
Well, he sure seems to have an impact on who they select. I mean, he wanted Coleman this year, or at least that's what he said. He wanted Kincaid last year, at least that's what they said. So, it feels like it's still a work in progress. But my bigger overarching kind of wide view of this offseason for the Bills is I don't like it. I just don't like this offseason. I don't like what they've done. I don't like the decisions that they've made. It's going to be hard for me to come around by the time we get to training camp. Don't worry, I'll get there.
Well, all right. I mean, let me just kind of put a bright spot here, because if I can't cheer you up on the Bills, if you're a Bills fan, maybe not today, maybe we can just kind of point and look at Kansas City here as we have breaking news in the sports bar.
Breaking news in the sports bar.
Ow! Ow! It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
WFAA in Dallas is reporting that Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice is under investigation for allegedly hitting a photographer at a Dallas club on Monday night. Dallas police investigate.
Jesus, really?
Yeah.
So you have the first thing still going, and then you're going to continue and do this? Oh, this guy needs to go. The NFL ain't going to put up with this guy. This guy's a problem.
This is, like you could say strike 2 was that was pretty bad. And like you only imagine he would not be on the field if someone had actually died.
Street racing was bad.
Yeah.
That was something that, we were wondering if he was going to be available for the off-season program or if he was going to put on the commissioner's exempt list. And now you have this on top of it? That guy could be on paid leave, or he could just be released.
Or if there's any guy that's like, as long as you're there, it used to be Al Davis, but are you going to be there on Sunday? It's like, it's the head coach. Do you think he really cares? Honestly, like who on that Chiefs wide receiver? You'd say, well, what about Xavier Worthy? To me, Xavier Worthy seems like the one-trick pony that will burn a team here or there, and you just hope it's not against Buffalo because that'll feel really, really bad. Rice, to me, Danger, feels like a legit number 1, and there must have been a reason he fell to the second round. And
he was coming on last year. He got better. I mean, if you're the Bills, you're hoping that that's Keon Coleman's trajectory, that through the course of his rookie year, by the end of the rookie year, he's really showing up, and you're like, ooh, yeah, we got something with this kid.
Yeah, because they've tried how many guys there between the retreads like Valdez-Scantling and Mecole, and then they draft Sky Moore. And then now, okay, they got something that's stuck there, but hey, if you're going around allegedly punching out photographers, well, then good luck getting on the field.
Well, you have Hollywood Brown. Maybe his career is resuscitated there with Patrick Mahomes throwing him the football. And Worthy, you might be right, is a one-trick pony. We don't know about his hands, but speed in that offense. And if Andy Reid is viewing him through the lens of, that's my Deshaun Jackson, I would say that he's probably going to be just fine. But the Rashee Rice off-field issues continue. That's a problem. And I wonder what the NFL will do in terms of discipline for the Chiefs wide receiver.
Yeah, it's this is happening early enough here in the offseason that they've got to do something.
We also talked to Matt about the schedule release, and I'm fairly certain that we won't be getting a schedule release this week.
No. You didn't see what the Colts owner, Jim Irsay, tweeted out this afternoon. So I smell a schedule release.
No.
Okay, yeah.
Word on the street is he doesn't have a cocaine problem. He just likes the way it smells. But
you got to smell something other than...
Yeah. You smell anything after all the years of abuse. I have no idea. Sal Capaccio is who Matt Perino said his trusted source is on the schedule release. Here's Sal on what that Buffalo schedule might look like.
All right, so Matt and I, we do a lot of, out-of-town radio interviews and television interviews about the Bills, and the number one thing so far the last few weeks has been, boy, is the window closing because they traded Stephon Diggs and they, released some older players, and our answer usually is, dude, they have Josh Allen. The window's not closing. They still have Josh Allen. And then you look and the odds are still one of the top 5 teams to win the Super Bowl, still the team to win the division. How about in the schedule makers' eyes? How do they see the Bills after some transition here this offseason as it relates to them being one of the teams that have had the maximum primetime games over the last several years?
Yeah, not taking our foot off the gas with the Bills. I don't think there's any question they have, one of the best players in the league, and that is the must-see TV that we've been talking about here. What makes me want to go sit in front of the television for a few hours? It's somebody like that, and he's phenomenal. He's fun to watch.
That's Mike North, who puts together the schedule or helps put together the schedule for the NFL, joining Sal Capaccio on the It's Always Game Day in Buffalo podcast.
Yeah, just a sidebar about the schedule, because I would think that his job 10 years ago must have been so difficult between all these parameters you got to work with and stadium restrictions and everything else. Like with AI, just should leave. There it is, right? Like in March, they're holding it back for a myriad of reasons. It's already done. They've got to believe it right now. And Irsay's tweeting that out. You know why he's doing that? Because he's already seen it.
Yeah, he knows.
Yeah.
And he likes it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be tweeting it. He must like it.
But to Mike North's point and what Sal's leading there, if you're thinking Sunday, 1 o'clock, because the Bills lost Mitch Morris and Jordan Poyer and blah, 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 blah. No.
Yeah.
No.
Still have Josh Allen.
No. I would be okay, though. Here's a caveat. If you opened up at home against a Tennessee or the Patriots, just give Buffalo just a yummy opponent, win, and then move on. What I think is going to happen, though.
Yeah.
You're ESPN. You want Buffalo-Houston Monday night for not only the Diggs storyline, but Houston, big market. I think they're top 5 TV-wise. I mean,
sure.
You're going to pull in a big number there, and with Josh Allen and that whole storyline and C.J. Stroud, I mean, that feels like a decent Monday night opener to me.
I agree. I feel like that's going to happen. And when you look at matchups like they have a matchup against the Chiefs again coming up this year, that's probably going to be a primetime game. You could circle a handful of these games and be like, that's a prime-timer. That's a prime-timer. Like, it'll be primetime Bills once again in 2024.
The question is, though, hey, like I like the schedule to come out because you picture it, and are the Bills going to end up on Thanksgiving? They could. They have to go to Detroit at some point. They could host Thanksgiving night, certainly. Are they going to be on Christmas Day? We're allowed to change opinions in sports, folks, and I always said, hey, it's Christmas. It's the day that we should be with family and everything else, but admit it, like that was kind of fun when you're watching with family, like hearing the interception return for a touchdown.
Here's Steve Tasker from One Bills Live talking Bills and Chiefs on Christmas night.
The Bills and Chiefs, let me just say this. The Bills and Chiefs are going to play 7 p.m. on Christmas night.
Oh, don't do that.
So now we're doing Thanksgiving and Christmas? We're doing both?
How many times did we play on primetime last year?
Right.
9 times.
No, full stop. Full stop. I heard that live. I was going to say the prime time. There's no prime time on Christmas night. The games on Christmas are 1 and 4.
That's right.
Yeah, so like you don't have to worry about that because the best matchup on Christmas last year was the lowest rated. Because there's only so much football you can watch during the day, and it is Christmas night.
I know, that's weird, right? Like that was a good matchup. That was the Ravens and the Niners. That was a lot of people said a Super Bowl preview, and it was primetime Christmas night, and it pulled nothing. It was a dog.
Right, because, put yourself in that situation. I know in my house, hey, let's watch this movie. Let's watch Elf for the 5,000th time, or The Christmas Story, or whatever it is.
We had it on, but I wasn't paying attention. You know what I was doing Christmas night?
Drinking.
Yes, but I was also through blurry vision working on a puzzle with my nephew. We were just background noise. Yeah. It was on, but it was background noise. So yeah, I get it. And could you see the Bills and the Chiefs on Christmas? Yeah, I think I could see that being one of the games on Christmas. That would make sense from the schedule maker's point of view.
Yeah. Well, remember, whoever's on Christmas has to play on the Saturday before. So whoever's on the Saturday before, you're almost giving a window to. That's why I really think the Bills on Christmas makes sense, because if you're going to, you can't put dog teams in exclusive windows on Christmas and the Saturday before. But hey, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Like, we're ready for the schedule. The NFL has us. Don't they have us, David?
No, they have us.
Oh my gosh.
We are addicted, and it is it's a disease that has no cure.
You compare this to other sports where, hey, we'll have the NHL released, and it's always like on a Wednesday afternoon in July. You're like, oh, okay. Baseball, to me, cracks me up. Baseball, while the season's still going on, we'll get next year's schedule in September. Like, why are you giving this to me now? This is disgusting.
Doesn't make any sense.
No.
NHL draft lottery tonight. San Jose with the best chance of getting the top overall pick.
Where's the kazoo sound effect?
You're not excited about this anymore. This isn't something that we get up for.
Well, here's your proof. Like, where do they put this? They didn't put it in prime time at 6:30.
Yeah, before the games start.
Before the games. Usually this was hey, during the first intermission, we'll send it up to Toronto. Hopefully they have some better production rather than just the guy holding up the card or whatever it is. I got to cut the grass tonight, Danger. I'm not going to.
Oh.
Yeah, so like
getting a mowing.
Priorities.
Do you have a count? Do you know how many you've gotten in so far?
Sadly, this is only 3.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm maybe like a half week ahead of you. I got my third in on Saturday morning. Saturday early afternoon.
See, I had 2 lacrosse games Saturday.
I know you're always working, man. Everybody sees it. You don't have to tell us how hard you work. Everybody sees it. We know. We got people.
No. I feel like I have to apologize for not cutting the grass like I was working.
We got people reaching out to us on X saying, every time I turn on the fan, I hear Gene doing play-by-play. Does the guy stop working? The answer is no. You're not going to meet somebody with Gene's work ethic. Don't even try. And does he stop on a night off? No. He's out there working on his lawn.
What I'm saying, though, is that basically for anybody in my neighborhood, like, that grass is getting a little long there. We do that, right, as guys. Like, you're judging everybody else's lawn, and I know mine is getting judged now.
My next-door neighbor views it as a competition. I don't like that. That takes it a little too far. Like, I'm sorry, man. I'm not competing. I can't. I'm not going to. I'll make it look good. I'll respect it, but come on. What are we doing? This is not, I should say that it's not a competition, but my first question was, how many times have you mowed this year? It is a competition. It's ridiculous. It is a competition. You got action tonight in the NBA. Celtics Cavs game 1 from Boston, and Thunder Mavs game 1 from OKC, the late game at 9:30.
The most surprising thing to me in this postseason has been Minnesota. Like, people were saying, you were telling me, I just didn't think they would go in and not only win, but just say, stay down. And Maggie brought up a good point this morning on Maggie and Perloff. Like, hey, do we look at Phoenix a little differently? Because, like, Minnesota just they swept out Phoenix, and the storyline was like, oh, my gosh, Phoenix, they got it all wrong. Like, no. Actually, the story should have been, that's Minnesota, and they're really, really good.
Yeah, they might be the best team in the NBA. Anthony Edwards is just imposing his will without any regard for anybody's legacy, anybody's soul. And we should have seen this coming. It was earlier this season, the poster dunk on John Collins of the Utah Jazz. If you didn't see it earlier this year, look it up. It's pretty remarkable. And he went ahead and did that to KD last round as well. Again, this guy has zero regard for your legacy, your name, your team. He's going to run through you. And it's been fun to watch. They're fun, and they might be the best team in the NBA. And I'm not going to take anything away from the Knicks, although I think even Knicks fans are like, yeah, we kind of lucked out on that one.
No, there's no doubt. Like Knicks fan is going to be like, yep, we earned that. Well, yeah, look, Brunson has been fantastic. Another 40-point game. You got some calls down the stretch. You got some calls. It's a home court advantage. You earn the home court advantage. I don't know if you get those calls in Indiana.
That series will continue, and that'll be a lot of fun to watch. And then you go back to the NHL tonight. You got a doubleheader as well. As Carolina looks to even up their series with the Rangers from Madison Square Garden. And then we'll get game one between the Avs and the Stars from Dallas as the late game tonight on ESPN.
We've got shots coming up here in the Sports Bar. Like, if we ever did a roast, I mean, like, we'd have to sit there and take it, right? Like, how many times in the past couple days, like, hey, did you see the Tom Brady roast? Hey, did you see
funny.
This?
We were talking with one of our coworkers about this earlier today. Tim, he was giving us some of the highlights from the Tom Brady roast, and I have to add it to the list. I haven't watched it yet. You can get away with that with some athletes, but we were talking about how, like, if you tried to roast Michael Jordan, 10 minutes in, he'd want to throw hands because he takes it personally.
Yeah.
And you can't joke with the guy because he's that competitive. With Brady, you couldn't really pick apart anything professionally that the guy ever did. All he did was win championships, right?
Well, the Deflategate.
Right. And he was the first one to, during the roast, from what I hear,
he took
make fun of himself, right? But you can certainly make fun of his off-field transgressions. You can make fun of his personal life, and that's kind of what I understand the roast of Tom Brady was. But you can't do that with every athlete. And, some people will take it personally.
Well, coming up in shots, there's a little bit of fallout here. And I'm curious to know where you come down on this because, look, it is a roast. It's all in good fun, but did something actually cross the line here?
Okay. We can get into that. We also have last call coming up before we get to the top of the hour. You're welcome to join us in the Sports Bar by calling 866-4326. 585-866-4FAN. A round of shots next.
The Fan Rochester.
It really is my favorite day of the week in the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It is Dinger Tuesday. Whatever you call them, dingers, blasts, moonshots, everyone loves the long ball. FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of 95.7 The Fan. It's me, Mike Danger. And with FanDuel's Dinger Tuesdays, you can love the long ball even more. That's right, Dinger Tuesdays are back this season on America's #1 sportsbook. Just bet on a player to homer tonight, and FanDuel will give you $5 in bonus bets for every home run hit during that game. As if you needed another reason to love the long ball, visit FanDuel.com/Mike to get in on all the Dinger Tuesday action. FanDuel.com/Mike, M-I-K-E. That's FanDuel.com/Mike. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Max bonus $25 per game. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com.
The new Yamaha Wave Runners are at the region's exclusive dealer of Yamaha Wave Runners, McMillan Marine. World-class boats, world-class service, world-class dealer.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite teams from across the country and get the inside scoop from experts. AUDACY. Odyssey.
Odyssey.
The Rochester Americans. All of the sports we care about in Rochester are right here on The Fan Rochester. Listen anytime on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Game 5 of the Amerks closing in on a sellout. It's Friday night against the Syracuse Crunch. We will be live from the Blue Cross Arena beginning at 3 p.m., 3 to 7. And then Don Stevens, Andrew Mossbrooks will have your call coming up Friday night here on the Sports Leader. The NHL Draft Lottery coming up at 6:30. The Sabres with a 3% chance of earning that top choice. Joey Gallo has been sent down to the Rochester Red Wings, a former Yankee, Dodger, Ranger. The Red Wings tonight playing against Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Gallo down from Washington on a rehab assignment. One game in the majors, Texas beating up Oakland 15-2. They're in the 6th. Yankees tonight host Houston. The Mets look to make it 2 in a row. They're in St. Louis. 2 games tonight in the NBA playoffs. The Celtics and Cavs play game 1, as do Dallas and Oklahoma City. Gene Battaglia, the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
If you want pure, unfiltered, unadulterated sports, you've come to the right place. 95.7 FM, The Fan, Rochester.
Back in the sports bar, it's Danger and Battaglia. 866-4326 for last call if you want to get in now. We'll get to that before we close up shop. First, a round of shots.
And maybe the most surprising results so far this NBA postseason, what's happening out west. Minnesota went into Denver, not only took the first 2 games, they limited the Nuggets to just 80 points in the blowout win on Monday. As a team, Denver shooting 34.9% from the field, 9 of 30 from three-point distance, and they committed 16 turnovers. Mind you, Minnesota did this without one of their better defenders, Rudy Gobert, who was witnessing the birth of his child. Game 3, Minnesota. That is in Minnesota on Friday.
I'm not going to count Denver out, because I think they still are the defending champs, and then that Jokic is that guy. But when you watch the way Minnesota plays, it's hard for me to say that they aren't the best team in the NBA right now.
What's the water like where Jokic is from? Because he wants to go home, right, basically.
What about the parade?
Yeah,
No, I have to get home.
I have to go home. Tonight, a couple series in the NBA, as we mentioned. Boston giving 11.5 against the Cavs. That's followed by Dallas and OKC. Thunder favored by 3.5. These games on TNT tonight.
The 11.5 feels like a lot. That feels like a lot.
I don't get that, actually.
That feels like a lot.
Especially how Boston will get big leads and then just kind of hand them right back.
I mean, the Knicks, and we'll talk to PJ Glasser from BetQL on Thursday. The Knicks, to me, feel like every game with the Knicks is the same. You know what you're going to get out of a Knicks game. There's no blowout. It's every game is the same. It's all edge of your seat stuff, and I don't
think they have the talent to blow anybody out. They pass the ball really well. They do a lot of things well, but is well good enough to earn a championship.
When you get into that, and what I was going to say is last night. I want to say that the Pacers were getting 5.5. And I'm like, yeah, that's going to be a close game. 5.5 is enough. And when I look at this line and I see 11.5, look, I know Cleveland isn't as rested as Boston is. And I know that Boston is the more talented of the two teams. But 11.5 feels like a lot. I feel like Cleveland can keep that close.
So from the WNBA, an injury for rookie, no, not Caitlin Clark. She's the 6'7" giant from South Carolina, the Chicago Sky. Cardoso hurting her shoulder in the preseason debut. She'll miss 4 to 6 weeks. Chicago opening the regular season next Wednesday. Also from today, the league announcing they're going to fund charter flights that will run them $25 million.
Oh, how nice of them to finally open up their wallets a little bit and eliminate one of the chief complaints that the WNBA Players Association has had. Yes, charter flights would be good. Wait, did we just break new ground? Are we talking WNBA preseason in the sports bar?
Well, there's more.
Oh.
The Washington Post has confirmed that Greg Doyle, the sports columnist for the Indianapolis Star, has been suspended. He will not be allowed to cover the Indiana Fever. They incorrectly say Indianapolis Fever. No, it's the Indiana Fever. The newspaper's decision followed an awkward moment at Caitlin Clark's introductory news conference last month.
So that's the guy that's threw up the little hand gesture and said, if you do that to me, we'll get along just fine. Something like that. It was just awkward and clumsy. Almost like, oh, I'm in awe and so in love with Caitlin Clark, who I now have to cover for her time here. It was just awkward and creepy.
You wouldn't do that right. So what we didn't know was that he got suspended for 2 weeks. Now, was that the paper saying we hold our guys?
That's what's interesting.
Or was it the league saying, hey, psh.
Yeah, that's what's interesting. Does the paper take itself so seriously that one of their writers, who probably has done a good job for them, been with them for a while, right, has this awkward moment, this cringy moment, that they take themselves so seriously, they're like, you know what, go sit in the corner for 2 weeks and think about what you've done? Or was it pressure from Caitlin Clark's team or the league on the paper to take action for that?
I hope that's not the case. And also, like, okay, so he's not allowed to cover the team? Like, why? Like, you would want your top columnist to come and cover Caitlin Clark. So there's that. Macklin Celebrini is the prize for tonight's NHL Draft Lottery. We saw the 17-year-old back in March for Boston University, the opening round win over the RIT Tigers.
He's only 17?
Oh, yeah.
I thought he was at least 18. 17.
17.
I think we'll probably hear about that.
He's the youngest player ever to win the Hobie Baker Award. That's for college hockey's best athlete. The Sabres have a 3% chance of winning the lottery. The team with the best odds, San Jose 18.5. Chicago danger, 13.5. You excited?
Yeah.
Anaheim at 11.5. St. Louis, they have a 0.5%, but they can't get up to number 1. The best they can do is number 3. The NHL draft, 6:30 on ESPN.
When the Blackhawks win the lottery for the second year in a row, how much is the NHL going to hate that? And not the NHL fan.
Feels like we haven't punished Chicago enough.
You got Connor Bedard, who's he's the next coming of Sidney Crosby, and it's going to be great. He had a nice rookie season. And then you end up with the number 1 overall pick, and you take the 17-year-old. Yeah.
To be honest, I don't know how good he is.
Celebrini?
Yeah.
Pretty good.
He's a kid, though.
He's a kid.
He's a kid.
So's Bedard.
Yeah.
Put him out there. We'll see.
Children.
They are.
Yeah.
Benson, we forget about, Zach Benson. He's a kid. Like a kid playing in a man's game. What do we expect to happen?
Finally, according to a source from People magazine, Tom Brady's ex-wife, Gisele Bündchen, was, quote, deeply disappointed by the disrespectful portrayal of her family on Sunday evening's roast show. Apparently Kevin Hart, the comedian, joked about Bündchen's new relationship with her jiu-jitsu instructor, while Nikki Glasser joking that Brady has 8 rings now that Gisele gave hers back.
Yeah, Glazer, I heard, was ripping into her, and the Kevin Hart joke that we can't repeat on the air. Look, it's a roast. Gisele comes off as a humorless, you know what?
Well, okay, like it's the families can't be off.
Well, I think she's probably upset because they took shots at her life after Brady.
Right, yeah, the jiu-jitsu instructor.
Right.
But wasn't she dating the jiu-jitsu instructor behind his back? Yes. So
yeah. I'm telling you, man, it's the world of supermodels, and I only got a glimpse of it last night at the Met Gala when my kids were watching it. I'm like, this is not for me. These people, I mean, Kim Kardashian shows up and she's wearing this corset. I don't know how she's breathing. I'm like, there's no reason why you would do this. And by the way, why would you put this image out for young girls? That's not healthy. That's not good. What are we doing? But they take themselves so seriously, man. They take themselves so seriously. And Gisele, part of that community, you can't joke. How disrespectful. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sure none of it is accurate, right? Sure. Fair enough. I got to add that to the list. is no list.
No, you're not going to watch it?
I don't know when or when will I get to it. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. It's a maybe for me.
Brady got to dig in at the Bills. Didn't you see that?
I didn't see that.
Yeah, let me see if I can say this off the top of my head. He's interested in becoming an owner of the Raiders. He already owns a couple teams, the Colts and the Bills.
Oh, there you go.
And hey. Hey, why did the Bills fan base call themselves the Bills Mafia? Like, don't you have to have a ring to kiss?
He's still mad that we threw his dong out on the field. Can't let it go. We'll get to last call next in the sports bar. We have time for your calls if you want to join us. 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326. Tomorrow on the show, well, there is no tomorrow on the show.
Yeah, we'll explain why.
We'll explain. We'll get into that. We'll take your calls before we close up shop and hand things over to JR Sport Brief. That's on the way here. 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Fun show this afternoon, spirited show this afternoon. Matt Perino joined us in the 3 o'clock hour from the Syracuse Post-Standard. We talked some Buffalo Bills. Then, in the 4 o'clock hour, we heard from Amerks head coach Seth Appert, as we do every Tuesday afternoon here in the Sports Bar. If you missed either of those conversations, you can find them now wherever you get your podcasts. Don't wait. Search out the Sports Bar, and we'll get the rest of the show up and posted for you here shortly. If you missed any part of the show, you can go back and listen inside the free to download Odyssey app. That's AUDACY.
You know, part of like developing any young talent in any sport, hockey, football, baseball, is we can't rush them, right, until they're ready. With today's news about Rashee Rice, is Xavier Worthy all of a sudden going to get more balls his way? Because honestly, I don't know if Rice, the story is this, Rashee Rice, now under investigation by the Dallas Police Department, this for allegedly punching a photographer on Monday night. Just on top of what he did in the race.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough look. You want to believe, like, okay, you're a knucklehead, you did something you weren't supposed to do in the offseason, you were drag racing, car racing, and you know, you're lucky that it wasn't more serious than it actually was. That's bad. So stay down. But no, I'm going to go out to the club and allegedly punch a photographer. Then the NFL is going to have some looking into the activities here of Rashee Rice and decide what they want to do. And if you're the Chiefs, you have to decide, do we even want this guy? I think they would take him, right? Like, I think he was kind of coming on as the season went on last year and developing into their primary target, a number one wide receiver.
Since when does Andy Reid take the high road on any of this stuff?
Never.
So this feels like a 2 to 4 game suspension. You ride it out, and he'll be reintegrated into the offense, and he'll be just fine come December. Just my take.
Travis Kelce gets his extension, and that's the piece you really need to have on that offense. You know, without Tyreek Hill, they still won titles. So Rice is nice, but if they're without him for a quarter of the season, or even if they move on from him entirely, or if he's on the commissioner's exempt list, whatever the case may be, I'm not going to say that Kansas City is going to be in any sort of, they're not going to have any issues. Okay, Kansas City, to me, is still the class of the AFC. I don't know who's challenging them.
Well, like they have a chance at history. We're talking about the Patriots and how they, with the Netflix special, look back, this great juggernaut. They never won 3 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
You really think Kansas City has it, Danger?
Right now, I mean, right now on May 7th, I don't see a team in the AFC that looks like they're going to beat Kansas City. I do not. I don't know I don't know if that team exists.
Baltimore with Derrick Henry.
I don't know that team exists.
Bills by luck.
You're hoping for a lot of luck. And isn't it funny? I mean, like when you break it all down and you talk about everything that we talk about with regards to the Buffalo Bills, that's still an element that has to exist. You just need to be lucky. Sometimes you just need to be lucky. And even when you're lucky, it doesn't fall your way. I mean, would you consider the Bills lucky that their offensive line started every game last year? They didn't have any injuries on that offensive line. That's kind of lucky. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's lucky, and it's also a lot of the training that goes into it. Sure, like you're doing the right things. But when we talked to Matt Perino earlier today, it was like kind of the press your luck element when it comes to Mitch Morse. Like, we can't forget that he had some concussion issues to the point where, hey, if he gets one more, that's it. So that was the surprising move for the Buffalo Bills this year. Like, you would give up a veteran who is still only playing at a high level, but it may be better to be 1 year ahead of this than 1 year too late.
Yeah. Go ahead and look at that Bills roster now and let me know what you think of the wide receiver room, and let me know what you think of the edge rushers, and then tell me that they're done. I don't think they're done. I don't think they can be done. I don't think they can go into camp with what they have right now and be like, yep, we're satisfied. If you do, I mean, like we talk about them having an arrogance, that's crazy arrogant. Like, you realize you don't have enough talent at those two positions, right? But we'll see. Rookie minicamp gets underway this weekend, Friday. Matt Perino of the Syracuse Post-Standard gave us his thoughts on what he's going to be looking for and watching for. And then, as I mentioned, Seth Appert was fantastic. Hey, Friday is a special day. We're broadcasting live from Blue Cross Arena in advance of Game 5 between the Amherst and Crunch, the decisive Game 5, to see who advances to the North Division Finals. So we'll be there from 3 until 7, broadcasting live, right above the box office in that second floor, kind of like atrium concourse. When you get off the escalators, take a right. You'll see us there at Blue Cross Arena. Don't be a stranger. Say hi. We're going to be getting ready for that matchup. And Seth, as always, brought it this afternoon. It was great catching up with him and getting a recap of that game on Saturday. It was amazing.
Now, tomorrow at this time, you'll be hearing the fine offerings of the Infinity Sports Network.
Zach Gelb.
Oh, it's Zach Gelb.
Yes.
Okay, that's right. Our buddy Zach. Tomorrow, my son's senior day. So I have to go. He's running outdoor track. You only get one senior day, so I want to be there. So
and tomorrow, I love you, but I need those 3 hours to get some other things done here with my job.
I think Dandalorian's offended.
Tomorrow,
I think he's offended.
I need 3 hours. I need those 3 hours back, and I'm going to use them to my fullest.
You can't do the show without me.
Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm needling you.
You're right.
Yeah.
I can't do the show without you. Let me put it another way. I don't want to do the show without you. How about that? Is that better? So tomorrow, Zach Gelb in our stead. We will return on Thursday, and when we do, we will have winners in hand. PJ Glasser is the host of BetQL Send It In. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had PJ on with us, and we'll talk to PJ about everything he's seeing in the NBA postseason, Major League Baseball, and PJ also into his golf. We'll get some winners for this weekend's PGA action as well. PJ Glasser, the host of BetQL Send It In. That's Thursday at 3:25. And don't forget that Insider Calls are presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. Gino, congrats to Kyle on Senior Day.
Yeah.
Enjoy that time tomorrow. That's memorable and well worth it. And you and I will be back here.
We're back on Thursday.
Thursday afternoon, starting at 3 o'clock, and one day closer to that Game 5 at Blue Cross Arena, which by the time we get on the air on Thursday, that's going to be sold out. It might even be by tomorrow.
Maybe by tonight. Who knows?
Yeah. So that's all good stuff. Again, if you missed any of the show, if you missed Seth Appert, if you missed Matt Perino, search us out wherever you get your podcasts. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all of the apps, including the free-to-download Odyssey app, AUDACY. And we'll get our full show up for you and available here shortly wherever you get your podcasts. Just search out The Sports Bar. JR Sport Brief next on the Fan Rochester.